The sun fills the square of the University of Music, and the air is filled with the aroma of coffee stalls and the impromptu melody of the piano club in the distance. Freshman Li Xiu dragged his guitar case and squeezed into the crowd quickly, his heart beating as fast as a drum. This is the starting point of his dream, a university with music as its soul. Every year, the club music competition is as fierce as a battlefield. The winner can not only stand on the campus anniversary stage, but also get a pass to a professional recording studio, leading directly to the industry. But as soon as he arrived at the scene, he was dumbfounded. In front of the new stall, it was as lively as a festival. The bass club's roar shook the ground slightly, and the jazz club's saxophone blew seductively curved sound waves, causing the passing seniors to scream. Li Xiu took a deep breath and squeezed in front of the orchestra club's booth, but saw only a few club members with their heads down and playing with their mobile phones. There was a lone sign on the booth that said, "Hot-blooded Orchestra Club, come and compete for the championship." Freshmen crowded around other stalls, and no one glanced twice. "Hey, freshman, right? Our club doesn't accept rookies." A boy with dyed blue hair looked up at him, his tone full of mockery, and the girl next to him snickered, "Last year we stopped in the top 8, and we still want to form a team this year? Save it and go to the piano club to be an accompanist." Li Xiu's face heated up, and his pride felt like being pricked by needles. The guitar in the box was bought by his parents through frugality. He had been practicing it since his 3rd year of high school until his fingers got calluses, just for this moment. He gritted his teeth and opened the box suddenly. The guitar strings shone coldly in the sun. "How will you know if you don't try? Give me a minute." The blue-haired boy rolled his eyes, childish. "Okay, don't cry if you're bad at playing." The crowd began to watch, and someone whispered, "Freshman. Are you looking for abuse? There are so many guitar masters on this campus." Li Xiu plucked the strings with his fingers, and the first low E string buzzed out, like a beast roaring. The air suddenly became stagnant. He closed his eyes, and his mind flashed back to the countless nights he spent practicing piano all night long in high school. Fingers are flying, and the riff is like a storm, cutting from Nirvana's Smells Like Teenage Spirit. The twisted solo tears the air, with the restlessness and unwillingness of youth. Sweat dripped from his forehead, the neck of his guitar was as hot as fire, and sparks shot out from every pick. The music of other clubs in the square stopped abruptly, the saxophonist's hand froze near his mouth, and the bass from the bass club stopped abruptly. The blue-haired boy's cigarette fell to the ground, his eyes widened like copper bells. "What the hell is this?" The girl next to her covered her mouth and her voice trembled. "Oh my God, his fingering is more powerful than the club's ace." The freshman onlookers screamed, and a passing senior murmured, "This boy, the tension between the strings, is simply a monster." At the end of the minute, Li Xiu drew back his strings, his chest rising and falling violently. The person in charge of the booth, a senior wearing sunglasses, rushed forward and slapped him on the shoulder. "Boy, you're in. The band club welcomes you, and from today on, you are our guitarist." The crowd burst into applause, and someone shouted, "The new king is born." Li Xiu grinned, blood rushing to his forehead. The person in charge pulled him into the club room. It was filled with smoke and the walls were covered with past competition posters. "The core of the 3 of us, I am the drummer Qin Feng, and this is the keyboardist Sheng Yan. The school qualifiers are next week, and the champion will go straight to the finals, and the recording opportunity is at your fingertips. But there are many strong opponents, can you do it?" Qin Feng is a sturdy boy with a smile, a red scarf tied on his head, and his drum sticks are flying between his fingers. "Huh, brother, your solo blew my soul away. Come on, shake hands." He shook his big hand, and Li Xiu felt like he was being caught in an iron vice. Sheng Yan sat in front of the keyboard, with long hair shawl, a gentle smile, and her eyes turned into crescent moons. "Your guitar has a story. It seems to be telling her heart." Her voice was soft and waxy, with a faint scent of jasmine perfume. Li Xiu's heart skipped a beat, and the ambiguous flames of campus quietly ignited. The three of them quickly held a meeting. The club room was filled with musical instruments, and the air was filled with the smell of engine oil and the rust of strings. Qin Feng knocked on the table. The theme of the qualifiers is youth frenzy. We want to be passionate. Li Xiu plays the solo, I play the drums for support, and Yan Yan adds emotional layers. Practice. Sheng Yan nodded, lightly touched the keyboard, and tried out a melody, which was soft and yet sharp. Li Xiu plucked the strings to keep up, and a tacit understanding among the three emerged, and the rhythm of youth echoed in the room. Dad's eyes lit up and he gave him a piece of meat. Well done. Dad also played the guitar when he was young and dreamed of being on the stage. Unfortunately, his family was poor and he didn't insist on it. Mom sighed and touched his head. We support you, but don't work too hard. Music is a dream, not a job. After the words were spoken, there was the sound of footsteps, and the pet dog Xiao Huang came running in, with golden hair swaying and his tongue hanging out. It rushed to Li Xiu's feet, wagging its tail and barking. Li Xiu smiled and grabbed the old tennis ball and threw it into the living room. Go, catch it. Xiao Huang swooped in, bit the ball in the air, rolled it around on the ground, picked it back up and spit it into his hand, with wet saliva. Mom smiled and bent over. This silly dog just loves to play with you. Son, chase your dreams, we support you. As the sun sets, Li Xiu carries his guitar and goes home. The community is old and the light bulbs in the corridors are flickering. He opened the door, and the smell of rice filled his nostrils. My mother served the hot braised pork, and my father came out of the kitchen wiping his sweat. Son, how was your first day? Li Xiu sat down, wolfed down his food, and said excitedly, Mom and Dad, I joined the orchestra club. I shocked the whole audience with my solo. After dinner, Li Xiu played the guitar and practiced music, while Xiao Huang lay at his feet and snored. My parents leaned against the door and watched, their eyes full of pride and worry. Late at night, when he returned to the club room, 3 people were waiting. Qin Feng threw out 3 temporary friendship bracelets, woven in red, blue and green, rough but strong. Brothers, exchange. We vow to advance and retreat together, and counterattack in the qualifiers. Li Xiu put on the red one, and Sheng Yan gently helped him fasten it. When her fingers touched, electricity rushed through her face. She blushed slightly, lowered her head and said, Let's, come on. Qin Feng laughed, youth is like this, sweat and ambiguity. They were trying out the new song, and Li Xiu's fingers were flying, but suddenly, the strings were playing out of tune. The E string buzzes and trembles, like a beating heart. He frowned and tuned, turning the screw again and again, but the sound was still harsh. Qin Feng blinked, it's a small problem, just practice. Sheng Yan was concerned, the guitar is old. Does it matter? Li Xiu smiled to hide it, feeling vaguely uneasy. Why was this old partner who had been with him for 3 years suddenly disobedient? During the discussion, the door of the club room was kicked open. A group of people broke in, led by Jiang Chen, a campus music genius, lead singer and all-around songwriter. He has silver hair and a flashing leather jacket, followed by a 5-piece band, and the bass is booming to warm up. Hey, new guitarist. I heard that your solo is awesome, dare you challenge our Silver Wings band? Jiang Chen's lips curled up into a proud smile, and his voice was like a razor blade. Before the registration deadline for the preliminaries, we came to the stage. Do you dare? If you lose, get out of the music circle. Jiang Chen's bass player flicked his fingers, and the low humming sound was like a wild beast panting, and the air in the club room was instantly suffocated. Under the smoky light, his silver hair shone coldly, and the arrogant smile at the corner of his mouth was like a knife cutting through Li Xiu's heart. Li Xiu tightened his grip on the neck of the guitar and plucked the E string unconsciously with his fingers. The harsh, out-of-tune sound buzzed around and amplified like a mockery. The whole place was silent. Qin Feng's drumstick stopped in midair. Sweat beads rolled down from under his red scarf. His voice was as low as a mosquito. Jiang Chen, this is here to destroy the place. Sheng Yan's keyboard keys trembled slightly and her fingertips turned white. She lowered her head and bit her lip. The smell of jasmine perfume mixed with the nervous smell of sweat filled the air. Qin Feng's face turned pale and he murmured, "It's over." Jiang Chen was the runner-up last year, and his strength crushed. Sheng Yan's fingers trembled slightly and she clenched the bracelet. Li Xiu stared at Jiang Chen. The shadow of the guitar tuning was still there, but his heartbeat was speeding up. In the air, the smell of gunpowder was too strong to be resolved. The provocative bass roar echoed, and the flames of war in the qualifying rounds were ignited. What? The new king doesn't dare to accept it. Jiang Chen took a step forward, the zipper of his leather jacket jingled, and his band members burst into low laughter. A guitarist shook his hair and said disdainfully, "I heard that your solo is awesome, come on, let's challenge 1-to-1. If you lose, let's disband." The onlookers' club passers-by in the group poked their heads, their eyes widened, and someone murmured, "It's over, the band club is in trouble now." Jiang Chen's riff can deafen people's ears. Li Xiu's heart was beating like thunder, and the smell of his parents' braised pork flashed through his mind. He gritted his teeth and stood up, "Take it. But not now, we will see the real results in the preliminaries." He plucked the strings fiercely, trying to improvise a counterattack, but, the E string was out of tune again. A sharp buzz pierced the air like fingernails scratching a blackboard. The whole room gasped. Jiang Chen laughed, his voice was like thunder, "Ha ha ha, this broken guitar. Counterattack. Save it, freshman." His bass player kept up with the taunting rhythm, the bass boomed so hard that the walls trembled slightly. Qin Feng's face turned livid, and his fists squeezing loudly, "Asshole." Sheng Yan hurriedly pulled Li Xiu's sleeves, her palms were wet and hot, not now." Jiang Chen waved his hands and led the team away. The door slammed shut, leaving a dead silence in the room and the lingering sound of E-strings buzzing. From that day on, intense training began like hell. The club room became a battlefield. Empty water bottles and pieces of piano strings were scattered on the floor. The smell of rust mixed with sweat in the air was too strong to be resolved. Li Xiu practiced for 8 hours every day, and his fingers suffered from blood blisters, and the E string repeatedly went out of tune, as if he was suffering from a chronic disease. He turned the screw until his hands hurt, and plucked the strings. Buzz. Wrong again. Damn it, he growled, smashing the neck of the guitar. Qin Feng was always next to him, his drumsticks flying around, and he burst out with jokes, "Huh, brother, this string is like my ex-girlfriend. If it's not in tune, throw it away. Come on, listen to me rap, E-string, don't make trouble," abused Jiang Chen in the preliminaries. He played the drum to imitate being out of tune, amusing the whole room with exaggerated grimaces, and passed by the club the members of the group laughed. "Qin Feng, this guy, can always turn danger into safety." Sheng Yan gave gentle guidance and demonstrated by flicking the keyboard, "Add emotion here, don't pluck hard, let your fingers feel like breathing." She came closer, her long hair swept across Li Xiu's arm, the scent of jasmine hit his nostrils, his heartbeat was out of rhythm, but the plucking of the strings was a little smoother. 3 days passed, and a tacit understanding between the three began to emerge. They locked themselves in retreat and composed the original song, Youth Frenzy. Li Xiu is the main riff, from Smells, he likes the teenage spirit variation, injecting campus restlessness. Qin Feng's drumbeat is like a heartbeat, his strong body is sweating like rain, and every stick hits sparks. Sheng Yan's keyboard is layered, with softness hidden in the edge, blooming like a girl's thoughts. The first time they played together, the room reverberated with frenzy, the guitar ripped the air, the drums pounded the heart, and the keyboard surged like a wave. Qin Feng's eyes widened and his drum stick flew up, "Damn. This tacit understanding, Jiang Chen can go to hell." Sheng Yan smiled, her cheeks flushed, "Li Xiu, your solo, is becoming more and more soulful. Her eyes met, and Li Xiu felt the red string of the bracelet was hot, and his good feelings came to him like a wave of sound. The eavesdropping passers-by pushed the door open and were stunned. "This song of yours will be a hit in the preliminaries." After practicing until late at night, Li Xiu went home exhausted. The lights in the corridor of the community flickered, and the aroma of rice came out from the crack in the door. He opened the door, and his mother served him steaming home-cooked dishes, sweet and sour pork ribs, green vegetables and tofu. His father was already seated, and old songs were playing on the TV. "Son, how is the club? You look so bad." Li Xiu sat down, wolfed down the meat, and picked up the meat with chopsticks. "Mom and Dad, you've been practicing like crazy. The guitar is always out of tune, and Jiang Chen comes to provoke. But we made a new song, it's super hot." His father's eyes lit up, and he put down his chopsticks. "Out of tune? Dad taught you." "I tuned countless strings when I was young." "Don't be afraid of setbacks in pursuing your dreams, Dad supports you." He stood up, pulled out an old pick from the cabinet, and handed it to Li Xiu, his palms rough and warm. Mom picked up the vegetables and sighed, "It's good to work hard, but your health is important. Music is the fire in your heart, don't burn yourself up." After saying this, the little yellow jumped out, its golden hair flew around, barked and pounced on Li Xiu's legs. It picked up an old tennis ball on the ground, its eyes shining brightly. Li Xiu smiled, grabbed the ball and threw it fiercely. "Go." Xiao Huang jumped up, spun around in the air and bit it, then rolled in a circle when he landed, grabbing it back with saliva, and licking the palm of his hand with his tongue. The mother smiled and bent over, "You silly dog, I know you are funny when you are in a bad mood." Li Xiu hugged Xiao Huang, the plush warmth relieved the pressure, the boredom in his heart receded like a tide, and the blood was rekindled. Returning to the club the next day, the three of them had a closer atmosphere. Qin Feng took out 3 shining friendship bracelets from his pocket, woven in red, blue and green, inlaid with cheap crystals, shining like stars under the lamp. "The temporary one is too rough, man, this is the official version. Red is for Li Xiu, blue for me, and green Yan Yan. Vow, never give up, counterattack the champion." He helped Li Xiu buckle with his clumsy hands, and the rope tightened his skin, symbolizing it as iron. Li Xiu put it on and felt the power pouring in, "Never take it off." Sheng Yan chuckled and helped him adjust the crystal. She touched the side of his neck with her fingers and electric current coursed through her body. She blushed and lowered her head, "Well, let's shine together." Her voice was soft and waxy, her eyes were crescent, Li Xiu's heart was filled with ripples, and he felt good feelings. This girl was not only gentle on the keyboard, but she was also like a musical note, quietly seeping into her. Qin Feng laughed, "The youth craze starts with this bracelet. Practice." The more intense the practice, the E string gradually stabilized, the calluses on Li Xiu's fingers became thicker, and the riff was like a strong wind. When the senior passing by heard this, he opened the door and stood dumbfounded. "You, with this tacit understanding, you can kill me in the qualifiers." But as the qualifiers approached, the crisis arose again. The community group is in a frenzy, and Jiang Chen's Silver Wings band released a demo. The lead singer's voice is like a knife tearing the air, the bass is so loud that the phone vibrates, and the guitar solo distorts the soul. The comment area exploded, "Silver Wings are invincible. Orchestra club. Even the top 8 are difficult." Qin Feng's face turned pale, "This demo, crush us." Sheng Yan clenched the green bracelet, her hands trembling, "But we are determined." Li Xiu stared at the phone, the E string was like a shadow, and his heartbeat accelerated. Li Xiu sat paralyzed, holding the guitar to his chest like a defeated general. Qin Feng patted him on the back and forced a smile, "Brother, don't be angry, that guy did it on purpose. Come on, practice. Next week in the qualifiers, we will reverse him." Sheng Yan handed over the water, her eyes watery, "Your guitar needs to be adjusted, I will help you." Her fingers touched the neck of the guitar lightly, as soft as spring breeze. Li Xiu felt warm in his heart, and the ambiguous electric current started to surge again. He nodded, and the three of them sat around. The lights lengthened the shadows, and the night wind poured in through the cracks in the window, mixing with the nocturne in the distance of the campus. Fast forward to the day of the qualifiers. The music square is crowded with people, and the air is mixed with the smell of sweat, coffee, and the heat of speakers. The sun was dazzling, the stage lights were blinding, and the audience was screaming. The three members of the orchestra club came on stage, their bracelets shining. Li Xiu's guitar neck was hot, Qin Feng's scarf was wet with sweat, and Sheng Yan's long hair was flying. Youth frenzy opens with pounding drums and soft waves of keyboards. Li Xiu plucked the strings, and the main solo came out, perfect. The audience roared, "New monster!" Jiang Chen's silver hair flashed in the audience, and the corner of his mouth was mocking. The whole place was as silent as a tomb, and the buzzing of broken strings was still in the air, making people's eardrums ache. Li Xiu's fingers were frozen on the neck of the guitar. The broken E string looked like a decapitated snake, and the tip was still trembling slightly. Blood seeped out from the fingertips, mixed with sweat and dripped onto the stage board, making a subtle snapping sound. Jiang Chen's laughter in the audience exploded like thunder, his silver hair flashed like blades in the sun, and his chest rose and fell under his leather jacket. The band's followers followed him in laughter, and a bass player beat his thigh and shouted, "King of broken strings. The freshman dream is shattered, Ha!" Whispers came from the audience. Some people covered their mouths and snickered, while others shook their heads and sighed, "The band club is over, the preliminaries are over." Qin Feng's drumstick hung in the air, his strong arm muscles were as tight as iron, and his face was covered with a red scarf. She was as white as paper, her throat rolled, and her voice trembled like a candle in the wind. Li Xiu, what should I do?" Sheng Yan's keyboard fingers were stiff, her knuckles were white, tears were shining on her pale cheeks, and the smell of jasmine perfume was mixed with fear. The smell of panic and sweat assaulted her nose, and she murmured in a low voice, "No, we can't just." Li Xiu's heart felt like it fell into an ice cave, and his self-esteem was shattered into dregs. The blood bubbles, the bracelet oath, and the smell of his parents' braised pork flashed through his mind, and they all turned into ashes. Jiang Chen took a step forward, grabbed the microphone in his hand, and shouted loudly, "Disband, you losers. Music is not child's play." In this flash of lightning, Li Xiu's eyes narrowed, and the red rope of his bracelet tightened his skin, like a red-hot iron sickle. He took a sharp breath of hot air mixed with the smell of coffee sweat, and the old pick handed to him by his father's rough palm flashed in his mind, and the words, "Don't be afraid of setbacks when pursuing your dreams," flashed in his mind. "It's not over yet." He growled, his voice as hoarse but firm as the remnants of broken strings. With lightning speed, his left hand pulled out the spare E string from the side pocket of his gig bag. He had already prepared 3 of them during practice. The smell of rust hit his nose, and the blood on his fingertips was smeared on the string body without any care. The thumb of his right hand pressed down on the stump of the broken string, and with a click, the broken end flew out, flying through the air and landing with a roar. The whole audience gasped, and the audience's eyes were as wide as bells. Someone murmured, He wants to change the strings on the spot. Crazy." Jiang Chen's smile froze at the corner of his mouth, his silver eyes narrowed slightly, and for the first time something strange flashed across his face. Li Xiu's movements were like lightning, the pick clamped the end of the string, the screwdriver whirled and buzzed, and the tight creak of the string body pierced the dead silence, like an arrow on a bowstring. His fingers were flying, and blood beads flew and spread on the guitar's paint, red and black intertwined like battle scars. "Qin Feng. Hold on." He shouted. Qin Feng's pupils shrank suddenly, and the drumstick hit him, boom. The double pedals are like a heavy beating of the heart, sparks are erupting from the drum's surface, beads of sweat are flying from the red turban, the strong body is like the god of war descending, and the rhythm is like the endless waves, forcibly holding up the broken gap. The audience in the audience shouted loudly, "The drummer is awesome. This rhythm is as steady as Mount Tai." Sheng Yan bit her lip, her green bracelet flashed, her fingers jumped, and waves of emotion surged from the keyboard. The soft melody was like a girl's murmur, layered with edge, and the jasmine fragrance seemed to turn into waves of sound, calming the panic in the audience. Her long hair was flying, her cheeks were blushing and pale, her eyes were fixed on Li Xiu, injecting silent support. "Hold, our hearts." 10 seconds lasted like a century. Li Xiu made the last twist and the E string straightened. Buzz, the dialing was perfect, and the low buzz came out like a dragon's roar, tearing the air. He dialed the main riff and Youth Frenzy was reborn. The sound of the guitar is like the roar of a beast, a variation from Smell's favorite teenage spirit is injected into campus restlessness, and the strings distort the soul, causing the stage speakers to buzz and tremble, the wooden boards to crack slightly, and dust to fall. Qin Feng's eyes were blood red, and the drum beat accelerated like his heartbeat. Sparks flew out with each stick, and he was sweating like rain. He shouted, "Here it comes. The craze." Sheng Yan's keyboard surged with soft waves. The three of them were in tacit understanding, and the bracelet crystals flashed like a galaxy under the light. Li Xiu transformed into a solo, and at the climax, he closed his eyes and danced wildly with his fingertips. His calloused fingertips bleed faster. The riff was like lightning, and the sound wave hit the audience's chest. Some people covered their hearts and screamed, "This solo, monster level." Passers-by in the audience widened their eyes and opened their mouths in an O shape. A girl screamed, "The new guitarist, amazing. Just broke the string and put it on and exploded." Jiang Chen's follower was livid, and the bassist murmured, "Impossible. This tacit understanding cannot be compared to the demo." A complete reversal. The audience went from snickering to excited, screaming like a tsunami, "Youth craze. The band club is awesome." The lights of mobile phones flashed, and the hot air mixed with the smell of sweaty coffee rushed towards their faces. Li Xiu opened his eyes, blurred with sweat, and his bracelet was as hot as fire. He roared out the last sweep, and the guitar ended with a scream, and the lingering sound lingered for 3 days. The audience stood up and applauded. The old professor at the judging panel pushed up his glasses and his hands trembled. "This changed the strings on the spot and transformed. Full score for promotion." Qin Feng threw the drumstick and hugged Li Xiu with his strong arms, his voice choked and trembling, "Brother. You are a fucking god." Sheng Yan rushed towards her, her long hair swept over Li Xiu. Neck trimming, soft body bumping gently, the fragrance of jasmine filled the pit of her heart, her watery eyes flashed with tears. "Li Xiu, you did it." Her hand accidentally held his red bracelet, and the current flowed through her fingertips. Li Xiu's heart lake rippled, and his self-esteem collided with sparks. The ambiguity was like the wave of sound that never ends. But Jiang Chen's Silver Wings band took over the stage and crushed them easily. The lead singer's voice was like a knife tearing the air, the bass was so powerful that the ground trembled slightly, and the guitar solo distorted the soul. The audience shouted again, "Silver Wings are invincible." They also advanced, and the judges nodded, "See you in the school-level competition for the duel between the two strong players." After the game, smoke and lights filled the backstage. Under the light, Jiang Chen swung his silver hair and approached, the zipper of his leather jacket jingled, and he smiled as arrogantly as a knife. "Yes, the broken string king is alive. In the next school competition, you will cry and beg for mercy. Prepare to be dismissed, freshman." His followers chuckled, and the air was thick with the smell of rust. Li Xiu wiped his sweat and stood up straight, his bracelet flashing, and his blood surged. "Jiang Chen, the preliminaries are just an appetizer. In the school competition, our craze will drown your silver wings. Come on." Qin Feng clenched his fists and smiled loudly, "Yes. Here is the bracelet, see you champion." Sheng Yan held the green ring, her eyes firm but with a hint of softness. Together, shine. Jiang Chen narrowed his silver eyes, turned around with a hum. His back was elongated, but there was something strange about this kid. The three of them looked at each other and laughed, their morale soaring into the sky like rockets. The sun was setting, the air in the music square was cool and mixed with the fragrance of residual heat and sweat. Li Xiu dragged his piano home, and the lights in the corridor of the community shone like stars. When you open the door, the aroma of rice fills your nose. Mom's sweet and sour pork ribs are golden and bubbling, and the vegetables and tofu are emerald green and attractive. Dad threw away the newspaper and his eyes were as bright as lights. Son. The community group is exploded. The video of you cutting strings and changing strings has gone viral. Mom picked up the food, sighed and smiled. Seeing the bloody marks on your fingers makes me feel so sad. But Mom is proud, this is growth. Li Xiu sat down to devour, chopsticks flying. Mom, Dad, we advance. Jiang Chen provoked, but we reversed the situation. Dad slapped the table, his thick palms were warm. Good job. Dad also broke a string when he was young, and he won the school sports on the spot. You have to be so hard. After saying this, the little golden hair jumped out, and his tongue licked the bloody fingers to relieve the pressure. It picked up an old tennis ball, its eyes sparkling and wagging its tail. Li Xiu grabbed the ball and threw it. Fly. Xiao Huang jumped up, whirled in the air and bit it. When it landed, it rolled in circles and drooled and picked it back up. The plush stuffed chest was arched, and joy washed away the fatigue like a tide. Li Xiu hugged it tightly, sniffing the sunny scent of dog hair with the tip of his nose, and his blood boiled. Xiao Huang, you have a share of the championship. As night falls, the club room is brightly lit, and the three of them retreat to celebrate their achievements and prepare for the school level. Qin Feng twirled the drumstick and laughed loudly. Practice harder tonight. Jiang Chen, go cry. They played Youth Frenzy again, and their tacit understanding was even better. The guitar, drum and keyboard were intertwined, and the night breeze outside the window was filled with campus nocturne. Li Xiu was racing wildly, the red string of his bracelet was hot to his hands, and his eyes glanced at Sheng Yan from time to time. A gentle wave came over her keyboard, but suddenly, ding. The wrong sound is harsh, like fingernails scratching the heart. The whole room was stunned, and Qin Feng stopped playing. Yan. It's rare. Sheng Yan's face changed slightly, her fingertips trembled, and the green bracelet crystal dimmed. She lowered her head to dodge, and Jasmine was confused. No. It's okay, my hands are slippery. Li Xiu came closer, and the electricity in his long-haired arms started to rise again, and his heart rippled. Yan, what's wrong? Yes. What's on your mind? She bit her lip, her eyes flashed with mist, and shook her head slightly. I really don't, just keep practicing. The voice was soft but thorny. Li Xiu asked unsuccessfully, feeling suspicious, but under the pressure of heat, he said, okay, let's shine together. The three of them played again. The night was getting deeper, the crisis was faintly like the lingering sound of broken strings, and the smell of gunpowder in the school-level competition was strong. The air in the club room is as sticky as syrup, mixed with the salty aroma of potato chip crumbs, the rubbery smell of Qin Feng sneaker soles, and the jasmine scent at the ends of Sheng Yan's long hair. The aftermath of the keyboard's wrong tone still echoed through the walls, like a thorn stuck in the throat, causing the three of them to frown slightly. Li Xiu's fingers flicked on the guitar strings, trying to bring back the rhythm, but the dodgy glint of the green bracelet lingered in his mind. He glanced at Sheng Yan. She lowered her head and rubbed her knuckles. Her pale side face looked particularly weak under the yellow halo of the light bulb, and her eyelashes trembled like frightened butterflies. Go on, Li Xiu smiled, but his voice was as dry as trampled leaves. The school competition waits for no one. Qin Feng shook his red turban, sweat drops flying like raindrops hitting the ground, and he waved the drum stick with his strong arms. Yes. The craze will come again, Jiang Chen's silver wings will be nothing. He slammed the 2 pedals, and the rumble was like the first explosion of thunder. The drum head shook with buzzing aftershocks. The floor of the club room shook slightly, and dust peeled off the corners of the posters on the wall. Sheng Yan placed her fingers on the keyboard, soft waves surged out, but mixed with slight tremors, like a hidden reef in the stream. Li Xiu kept up with the riff, the guitar roared and undulated, but his mind was wandering, the E string was plucked too hard, and the buzz treble was harsh and derailed. The whole room suddenly stopped, Qin Feng's drumstick was hanging in the air, Zhuang's face was startled, "Brother Xiu. Why are you so distracted when tuning tonight? That string just sounded like morning." Sheng Yan raised her eyes, her misty eyes swept over Li Xiu, the corner of her mouth was slightly raised but she couldn't hide a hint of panic. She said softly, "Maybe you are tired, take a rest." It was late at night, the campus street lights outside the window stretched the shadows of the trees, and the chirping of insects mixed with the laughter in the distant dormitories. Li Xiu rubbed his temples, stood up and poured water. He accidentally approached the back door of the clubroom, where old speakers were piled up, and the faint light from the corridor showed through the gaps. As soon as he bent down, he heard Qin Feng approach Sheng Yan in a low voice, his voice as low as a secret whisper, "Yan Yan, don't hide it from my buddies." "That wrong pronunciation, is it because of him?" "Li Xiu, that kid, has been pre-selected as a solo artist, but what are you hiding in your heart? Are you in love with him?" "Huh, buddies understand, your eyes will betray you." Sheng Yan said the voice was as soft as a mosquito's moan, but penetrated into Li Xiu's eardrums clearly, "Qin Feng. You, don't talk nonsense. I'm just worried about the school competition, he is under great pressure, and I." The end of the words was drowned in Qin Feng's laughter. "Worried? That's an excuse for love. Don't worry, Brother Xiu is a tough guy, and I'm worthy of you. I swear on the bracelet, we 3 will never be separated." Li Xiu's head went blank with a buzzing sound, like falling into an ice cave. The water cup in his hand clattered to the ground. The sound of shattering plastic pierced the quiet night. Water stains spread on the floor, and the reflected light was like a broken heart mirror. He froze in place, his self-esteem shattered like a broken string. Sheng Yan like Qin Feng. That sturdy and reliable guy, who beats the drums as steadily as a mountain, always resolves embarrassment with a smile, but you? A freshman in college, with broken strings and bloody fingers, no matter how amazing her solo is she not worthy of her emotional keyboard player? The ambiguous current turned out to be an illusion, and the tenderness at the moment of holding the ring was just her tossing and turning towards Qin Feng. The pain in his chest felt like a heavy blow from a drumstick. He gritted his teeth and turned around, his face livid. "I went to the toilet." Qin Feng turned around and raised his eyebrows. "Brother Xiu. The cup is broken, you are absent-minded." Sheng Yan's eyes flashed strangely, and she stood up to chase after him. "Li Xiu, you." The practice ended hastily, the 3 of them packed up the piano case, and the air was filled with awkwardness like fog. Qin Feng patted Li Xiu on the shoulder, his palms as strong as iron. "Brother, if you are in bad shape tonight, do it again tomorrow. Jiang Chen, go and cry." He smiled brightly, and the red bracelet flashed under the light. Li Xiu felt even more sad, and he forced a smile. "Well, go home." Sheng Yan handed over a towel to wipe off sweat. The fingertips accidentally touched the back of his hand, and the electric current shot up like a knife. "Get some rest early." Her jasmine fragrance hit his nostrils, and the ripples of Li Xiuxin Lake turned into a storm. He turned and fled from the clubroom. The night breeze was as cold as toppings. On the campus avenue, his footsteps were as chaotic as broken riffs. When I opened the door, the smell of rice had cooled down, and my mother served braised eggplant that had been heated overnight. It was purple-red and steaming, and the minced garlic and chili peppers were tantalizing. Dad turned off the TV and frowned. "Son. Why do you look like you've lost your soul? Did you mess up the club practice?" Li Xiu poked the plate with his chopsticks, eggplant juice splashed, and said in a muffled voice, "No." The pre-selection video was still popular, and the judges got full marks. But in the school competition, Jiang Chen is too fierce. Mom put a piece of eggplant into his bowl, and her gentle eyes noticed the clues. Are the blood marks on the fingers all healed? Also, the eyes are red, like rabbits. Is it something that happened to a girl when she was young? Ambiguous misunderstandings were the most annoying. People. Li Xiu's heart tightened, and his pride sparked. He lowered his head to eat. "Mom, I just don't think I can do it." Dad slapped the table and loudly said, "Nonsense. Dad, watch the video and you change the string solo, and the whole school will be shocked." Passers-by screamed, "Monster level." Jiang Chen's follower was as green as a vegetable. Chasing dreams, confidence is a string, replace it if it's broken. After saying this, the little golden hair burst out and ran wildly, fluffy body fluttering against his legs, hot tongue licking the bloody cocoon on his wrist. The slippery smell of sunshine dispelled the haze. It picked up an old Frisbee from under the sofa, its eyes were bright and its tail was wagging like a propeller. Li Xiu grabbed it and threw it. "Go!" Xiao Huang jumped up, flipped in the air and bit it. When it landed, it rolled in circles and drooled back. The tip of its nose touched his knees, and joy poured out like a tide. Li Xiu hugged it tightly, the dog's hair warmed his chest, and he temporarily forgot about the loss. "Xiao Huang, tell me, buddy, is it okay?" The next morning, the sun shone brightly into the club room, and the three of them reunited. Qin Feng arrived early, spinning the drumstick like a windmill, and roared with laughter, "Brother Xiu. Last night I dreamed of Jiang Chen kneeling down and begging for mercy. Come on, warm up." Sheng Yan has adjusted the keyboard, and the crystal of the green bracelet reflects the colorful light. She smiles like a flower, but avoids it. Li Xiu looked directly at him. "Good morning, Li Xiu. Are you feeling better?" Li Xiu's heart was cut by a knife, and he was haunted by a misunderstanding last night. He plucked the guitar, and the riff rose and fell frequently out of tune. Qin Feng kept up with the drum beat, but missed it, and his face was shocked. "Brother Xiu. Wrong again. Where did your soul fly?" Sheng Yanro came to comfort her, and the sound of the keyboard was like whispering, "Take your time, let's go together." But her like for Qin Feng flashed in Li Xiu's mind, and her fingers trembled even more, and her solo was stuck like a misfire. The whole room was dead silent. Qin Feng scratched his head and tilted his red scarf. "Oh, what's going on? Last night, we had a tacit understanding, but today it seems half-hearted." His eyes suddenly lit up, and he wrapped his strong arms around Li Xiu's shoulders, bursting into laughter. "Ha, I understand. Brother Xiu, you can't be jealous of my brother's handsomeness, right? Or are you attracted to Yan? You're kidding. We are three bracelet brothers, who is following who?" Sheng Yan's cheeks were as red as the morning glow, and her eyes were wide open. "Qin Feng. What are you talking about?" She flicked the green bracelet and swept it over Li Xiu's red ring in a panic. Li Xiu's heart was like a battlefield. Was she panicking? Or is it the protection of Qin Feng? His self-esteem shattered, he growled, "Stop making trouble. Practice." The embarrassment was like a fog, the practice was intermittent, and the campus noise outside the window poured in. The freshman whispered, "I heard that the orchestra club's pre-selection video exceeded 10,000 likes." Li Xiu broke the string and changed it. But Li Xiu's ears were full of mocking auditory hallucinations. Qin Feng humorously resolved it and gathered the three of them to sit around. "Stop. The school competition is about to take place. Jiang Chen Silver Wings last year's top 8, the bass cracked the ground, and the solo twisted the soul. But we have bracelets." He raised the 3 rings of red, blue and green, the crystals jingled, and he vowed to relive, never leave, shining champion. Sheng Yan's eyes were moist, holding the green ring and getting closer to Li Xiu. The scent of jasmine filled her nose. "Yes, together. Li Xiu touched her ring with his finger, and warm electricity surged into his heart. He managed to pull himself together, but lost it under the heat. Okay. The frenzy will drown the silver wings. The three of them played again, and the tacit understanding barely warmed up. The guitars, drums, and keyboards intertwined, and the heat wave rolled in the clubroom. But the crisis is like an undercurrent. During the lunch break, the community was buzzing and the mobile phones were buzzing like a beehive. Li Xiu clicked on it, and his expression suddenly changed. An anonymous video went viral. His Youth Frenzy riff clip, compared to Jiang Chen's demo last year, was 90% similar. Comments abounded. Plagiarism dog. King Broken String turned out to be a plagiarist. The orchestra club was promoted to shady. Li Xiu stole old Silver Wings music. Qin Feng glared and hit the table with his fist. Fuck. Jiang Chen did it. This bastard sent his followers to spread it. Sheng Yan's fingertips trembled, and the green ring dimmed. What should I do? The review committee will investigate. Passing by the club, the freshmen passing by in the room were whispering, their eyes widened and they were pointing. Plagiarism. The pre-selected solo is fake. A girl covered her mouth and whispered, monster level. Liar. Li Xiu's heart sank to the bottom, his self-esteem was shattered. Jiang Chen's silver eyes flashed in his mind and he smiled strangely. This is a higher-level challenge. On the eve of the school-level competition, rumors were shot like poisonous arrows. Suspicions arose within the club, and cracks appeared in the passionate team. He clenched his red bracelet and shouted, prove it to them. In the school competition, we will use the stage to slap Jiang Chen. The setting sun lengthened the shadow of the clubroom, the eyes of the three people intertwined with each other, and Qin Feng's grand smile ignited. Yes. The bracelet flashes, see you champion. Sheng Yan gently held Li Xiu's arm, and the soft current comforted her, believe in yourself. But the storm in Li Xiu's heart has not calmed down. Misunderstandings are like broken strings buzzing. The plagiarism storm has expanded the campus, the shadow of powerful rivals is shrouded, and in the wider music circle, the hidden mystery is emerging. Jiang Chen, why is he targeting them? How will the craze counterattack on the school-level stage? The night wind blows in, mixed with distant speakers preheating the school sports music. The smell of gunpowder is as strong as smoke, and the passion of youth is about to explode. Outside the club, the setting sun stained the window glass red like blood, shattering into thousands of sharp blades of light that penetrated the room, reflecting the poisonous arrow-like comments of the anonymous video on the mobile phone screen. There was a constant buzz and vibration. The freshmen passing by slowed down, their eyes widened, and they whispered like poisonous snakes, plagiarism. Li Xiu's broken string solo turned out to be stolen from Jiang Chen. The orchestra club is over, and the shady story of the school competition is exposed. A girl wearing glasses covered her head. He shouted in a low voice, as sharp as scraping glass, monster. Liar. Comparing the videos, the riffs are exactly the same, 90% similar. Are the judges dumbfounded? The salty smell of potato chip crumbs in the air mixed with the smell of sweat and the heat of keyboard plastic, making the chests of the three of them feel like lead weights. Li Xiu squeezed the phone tightly with his fingers, his joints turned white, and the red bracelet crystal flashed with blood in the setting sun. He stood up suddenly, his guitar hit the table and buzzed, and he roared out the anger in his heart, fart. This is Jiang Chen's dirty trick. My Youth Frenzy was recorded live last night, and the pre-selected video has a time stamp. Who copied who? Qin Feng waved his strong arm, and the drumstick hit the ground like thunder. His face under the red turban turned purple and his eyes were as round as copper bells. Yes. Bastard Jiang Chen, last year's demo was a mess, and his followers anonymously posted videos and spread shady stories. My fists are itchy. He grabbed the phone, pointed at the community group with his thick fingers, and his voice was like a roaring drum. Brothers, watch. Preliminary live broadcast replay, the entire tuning process before Li Xiu's solo, the E string broke and the new riff broke out on the spot. It's similar. That's a collision of inspirations, music should be shared. The group was furious, and the passers-by approached the crack of the door, and their originally mocking faces froze, and a boy murmured, "Really, the timestamp is wrong, Jiang Chen de MO is last month." The girl's eyes flashed with shock, and she took a step back. "Oh my god, Li Xiu, didn't you copy?" Sheng Yan's fingers trembled slightly, her green bracelet swayed slightly, she stood up and approached Li Xiu, her long hair was soft, and her voice was like the soft waves of the keyboard, and she said, "Li Xiu, don't be angry, we believed you. It must be your heartbeat, not copied. The judges will find out, and we will stand by your side in the school competition." Her eyes were moist, and she accidentally touched his arm, but the electricity surged like a blade. Li Xiu's heart tightened, and he deliberately turned sideways to avoid the eyes filled with emotion. He mistakenly heard that the curse was still there last night. How could her, for Qin Feng be worthy of such a gentle platform? With his self-esteem humming like a broken string, he hummed, "Thanks, let's practice." Night engulfed the campus, and the yellow light bulb in the clubroom stretched out the shadows of the three people. The restart of practice was like an intermittent heartbeat. Qin Feng's double pedals started with a bang, sweat beads splashed on the ground and the ground was slippery, and the smell of rubber was pungent. Sheng Yan's keyboard surged with soft waves, injecting emotion like a stream caressing. Li Xiu followed up with the strings, growling and riffing, but his eyes were fixed on the floor, avoiding Sheng Yan's flash of green rings and her crimson face. The tuning of the E string was squeaky and harsh, his fingers trembled, the solo was stuck for half a beat, and the high note was derailed like a cry. The whole room was stunned. Qin Feng's drum stick was hanging in the air, his face was stunned. "Brother Xiu, are you distracted again? Did the plagiarism scandal crush you?" Sheng Yan's eyes flashed, and she stood up and wanted to hold his hand. "Li Xiu, take a deep breath, let's go together." But Li Xiu's heart was in a storm, and her whisper of flashed through his mind. His pride collided with sparks, and he shook his head. "It's okay. Let's do it again." The three gritted their teeth, and the tacit understanding was as if it was broken. The kite reluctantly pulled back, the guitar, drums and keyboard intertwined with the heat wave, and the insects outside the window mixed with passers-by sighing. "Orchestra club, hold on, the video is a bit whitened." Qin Feng burst into laughter. "Did you hear that? Let's flash our bracelets and let Jiang Chen cry." He raised the red ring to touch the blue and green, the crystal jingle collided like the recasting of an oath, the three people's eyes intertwined with gunpowder, the bond deepened in the crisis, but it hid the rift in Li Xiu's heart. After the practice, the night breeze was as cold as toppings, and Li Xiu dragged his guitar case home alone. The streetlights on the campus boulevard stretched out a lonely shadow, and the aftermath of plagiarism was still buzzing in the group. The freshman had complicated eyes. Li Xiu, the real thing. When he opened the door, the heat of the braised eggplant had dissipated, and the spicy garlic hit his nose. His mother served newly fried shredded green pepper pork, with shiny green threads wrapped around the diced meat, and the aroma dissipated the haze. Dad turned off the TV and furrowed his thick eyebrows. "Son, your face is as black as the bottom of a pot. I've blocked the community group, plagiarism. Dad doesn't believe it, I forwarded your solo video 10 times, and passers-by shouted, "Newborn king." Li Xiu poked the plate with his chopsticks, and meat juice splashed. "Dad, Jiang Chen's trick, the video comparison is 90% similar, everyone suspects." Mom put a piece of meat into the bowl, and noticed with gentle eyes, "Is the girl's misunderstanding getting worse? Ambiguity is like a musical note, and misalignment is the most painful. Mom is chasing dreams, and she has experienced it. She plays it to herself, and she is confident. Yes. Dad is young, and the drums are broken, and the stage is slapped." The little golden hair jumped out when he heard the sound, and the plush hot tongue licked the bloody cocoon on his wrist, which tasted like an antidote. It held the flying disc in its mouth and swung its tail in a spiral. Its eyes were bright and the tip of its nose was touching its knees. Li Xiu grabbed it and threw it. "Fly. Xiao Huang jumped into the air, flipped and bit it. When he landed, he rolled in a circle and drooled back. The tide of joy poured out. He hugged the dog tightly, with his warm fur close to his chest. Xiao Huang, buddy, okay. After dinner, Li Xiu sat cross-legged on the sofa and picked up the old guitar. Under the light, the cracks in the wooden body looked like a broken heart. He plucked the strings and reflected on himself. The low riff was like whispering to himself, and the E string buzzed faintly and unsteadily. My parents leaned against the door to listen, and my mother sighed, "Son, your fingers are steady, and your heart is steady." Dad nodded, "Confident string, break it off and replace it." Jiang Chen. See you at the school level. Xiao Huang snored at his feet, his breath warm. Li Xiu closed his eyes and played a new variation. The riff surged like a frenzy, dispersing the shadow of misunderstanding, and his self-esteem was gradually rebuilt. Late at night, he fell into bed, and his cell phone buzzed. Jiang Chen's private message came into view. Li Xiu, plagiarism dog, good luck in the pre-selection. Dare you duel in private? Tonight at 10 o'clock, solo on the roof of the old music building, the winner will compete in the colonel level, the loser will retire. Silver Wings vs Frenzy, prove who is the king. Attached video, Jiang Chen's silver eyes smiled strangely, and the bass demo twisted Chu's soul. Passers-by's post went viral. Jiang Chen has a fight. Is Li Xiu timid? Li Xiu felt angry, clenched the red bracelet, and roared, "Come." He returned to the club group. Jiang Chen challenges, private duel, win the rank of colonel. Guys, support me. Qin Feng replied in seconds, Brother Zhuang is with me. I will serve you with fists. Sheng Yan's voice trembled, be careful, we believe you. On the roof of the old music building, the night wind howled like a ghost crying, the moonlight shone coldly on the empty platform, dust filled the corners of the old speakers, and the campus lights in the distance were like a sea of stars. Jiang Chen had arrived, and his silver-winged friends formed a circle. His silver eyes sneered, and he held a bass and his body was as tall as a sword. Copycat, come on. Li Xiu went upstairs alone. Behind him, Qin Feng and Sheng Yan chased him out of breath. She slapped her shoulder with her strong palm, Brother Xiu, flash your bracelet. Sheng Yan's green ring flickered, her eyes misty, Li Xiu. He avoided looking, nodded and went on stage, feeling sour in his heart, for her. No, for the team. The makeshift microphone buzzed, and the Silver Wing followers burst into laughter. King of broken strings? The guitar sucks. Passers-by, freshmen, heard the news and watched, their eyes widened as they recorded on their mobile phones. Private war. Jiang Chen crushes. Jiang Chen played first, and the bass, the low roar was distorted like a tearing soul. The sound waves hit the night sky, the floor of the platform trembled slightly, and the followers screamed, God. The king with silver eyes. Qin Feng face was livid, fuck, fierce. Sheng Yan's fingertips trembled, Li Xiu, come on. It was Li Xiu's turn. The old guitar was buzzing when the strings were wound, the riff started with a low roar, and the string-breaking skill was gaining momentum. The audience sighed, which hand is pre-selected? But at the climax, the E string suddenly loosened, buzz. It broke like a whip, the strings flew off and scratched the blood on the back of the hand, the guitar misfired and jammed, and the lingering sound was as harsh as the wail of a defeated dog. The whole place was dead silent. Jiang Chen's silver eyes narrowed and he laughed wildly, you loser. God's will, the plagiarism dog is out of the competition. The Silver Wing followers burst into laughter, bad guitar. Get out of the orchestra club. Qin Feng punched the railing, his red turban tilted, Brother Xiu. The old guitar is broken again. Sheng Yan's face turned pale, her green ring dimmed, and she rushed forward to help her. Li Xiu, your hand is bleeding. But Li Xiu stood frozen, blood dripping on the string, his self-esteem shattered like a broken string falling off a cliff, and the triple poisonous arrows of misunderstanding, plagiarism, and malfunction flashed through his mind, and the team was on the verge of collapse. A passing freshman whispered with wide eyes, "It's over, Jiang Chen wins, no frenzy in the school." Jiang Chen approached, best-shouldered, "Admit defeat? Or kneel down?" The night wind stirred up dust on his face, Li Xiu gritted his teeth, the red bracelet flashed with blood, and the blood in his heart was faintly boiling. Is there something behind this malfunction? In the depths of Jiang Chen's silver eyes, that strange smile appeared, as if a bigger conspiracy had surfaced. The night wind roared like a wild beast, and the dust blew against the face mixed with the smell of rust from the old roof. The cold white moonlight shone on the guitar with broken strings, and the remaining E strings were still trembling slightly. Blood beads spread from the back of Li Xiu's hand and dripped onto the platform with a snap, staining the cement in red and mottled colors. The laughter of the Silver Wing followers exploded like a tide. A guy with dyed blue hair bent over crazily, holding his belly and exhaling the sour smell of tobacco, king of broken strings. "Huh, brother Jiang Chen will make your guitar self-destruct as soon as he plays it. Just give up, the plagiarism loser." Another short, fat follower flashed his cell phone and recorded furiously, his eyes narrowed into slits, and his voice was sharp and harsh, "It's live, it's live. The whole band club is black, get out of the school competition." Passers-by gathered in a loose circle, their originally excited faces turned into stone, and a girl whispered and backed away, "Li Xiu is miserable, the blood is flowing, Jiang Chen's bass is so distorted that his soul is shattered." Qin Feng punched the railing, the iron pipe reverberated, and the red scarf was stuck to his neck with sweat. His throat rolled like thunder, "Brother Xiu. Damn, this old guitar is possessed by evil. Jiang Chen, you are tricking me, who could have touched the string?" Sheng Yan's face was as white as paper, and her green bracelet was dim under the moon. She rushed forward, her skirt flying, the scent of jasmine mixed with blood hit her nose, her trembling hands wanted to hold Li Xiu's arm. "Li Xiu, your hand is bloody. Stop playing, let's go." But Li Xiu stood frozen, his self-esteem falling off a cliff, the 3 poisonous arrows, the aftermath of plagiarism, the broken string failure, the collapse of the team, the storm in his heart was raging. He gritted his teeth and growled, avoiding her misty eyes. The curse of liking Qin Feng he heard last night was still stinging, and his self-esteem collided with sparks. "Let's go after losing the school competition." Jiang Chen's silver eyes narrowed into razor blades, his tall and thin body leaned forward, the bass on his shoulders was still buzzing, the corners of his lips stretched into a strange smile, and his voice was like an ice needle piercing his heart. "Kneel down and admit defeat, you loser. God will let you break your strings, Silver Wings will become a colonel, and the band club will be disbanded." The followers roared like a pack of wolves, "Kneel down. Kneel down." The air froze, and the night wind picked up the dust from the old speakers. Qin Feng, with a livid face, grabbed the temporary drum set and stepped on the ground with 2 pedals. The sweat splashed and made wet marks. "Brother Xiu. I don't accept it. Let's improvise, and the craze will never end." His drumsticks flew, and his thick arm muscles bulged like iron, booming. Long's low-frequency heartbeat started, and the pungent and hot breath from the rubber pedal rose up. The passerby's eyes widened. "Qin Feng. Drummer solo. Crazy." Sheng Yan's fingertips trembled, and the green ring swayed slightly. She instinctively took half a step back, but she heard Li Xiu whisper in a low voice, "Sheng Yan, your keyboard, the wave of emotion." His eyes flashed, panic turned to surprise, and he rushed to the keyboard, swept away the dust at the corner of his skirt, pressed the switch with his soft fingers, buzz, electronic waves surged out like a stream caressing, injecting soft heartbeats. Li Xiu, together. The 3 people's eyes met, red, blue and green bracelets jingled under the moon, and the blood light flickered like the rekindling of oaths. Li Xiu's heart was boiling with passion. He ignored the stinging blood marks on the back of his hand. He grabbed the old guitar and the broken strings buzzed. He held down the remaining strings with his left hand and fixed it. The pick in his right hand flashed like lightning. The riff roared unsteadily but wildly, youth frenzy, bursting from the broken strings. At the gap of the E string, his fingers were bloody and he pressed the strings, performing an on-the-spot variation. The magical skill of breaking strings reappeared. The buzzing high-frequency derailment did not misfire, but turned into twisted souls colliding with Jiang Chen's bass. The guitar body trembled and sawdust flew. The sound waves hit the edge of the platform like a frenzy, and the iron bars buzzed and resonated. Qin Feng burst into laughter, the drum beat accelerated like a war drum, and the smell of sweat mixed with rubber filled his nose. Brother Xiu is awesome. I keep up, fist rhythm. The double pedals exploded cracks in the ground, and the drum's skin was red and swollen with heat waves. Sheng Yan's emotions exploded on the keyboard, and the soft waves turned into violent waves. The green ring reflected the keyboard light, which was moist and shimmering. Her side face turned crimson, and her voice spilled from her throat like a whisper. Li Xiu, this is your heartbeat, I heard it. The three people's tacit understanding was like a kite with its string cut off, and it was yanked back. The intertwined heat waves shot straight into the night sky. The floor on the old roof trembled slightly, and the dust swirled into a tornado. The laughter of the silver wing followers stopped, and the blue-haired guy's eyes widened. He dropped his phone and smashed it to the ground. This breaks a string and plays it again. Monster. The short and fat follower stumbled back and spurted out nosebleeds. Brother Jiang Chen, they reversed. Passers-by were furious, and a boy screamed and covered his ears. The sound shook his chest. Li Xiu broke the string solo. What a magic trick. The girl's glasses fell off and she murmured. Voice, plagiarism. Liar, this variation is so original that Jiang Chen's bass is crushed. Jiang Chen's silver eyes flashed with astonishment, and the knuckles of the bass handle turned white. He plucked hard and counterattacked, twisting the low-frequency soul to tear the air, but Li Xiu's riff reached a climax. The broken strings buzzed like firecrackers exploding, the Qin Feng drum exploded and the waves surged. The triple attack caused the bass sound wall to collapse, and the platform iron railings buzzed like a defeated dog wailing. Jiang Chen's face turned pale, and the bass strings flew off and scratched blood marks on his arms. He staggered back, and the smile in the depths of his silver eyes turned into awe. You, the string-breaking king? The whole place turned into a wave of screams, and passers-by's mobile phones flashed like stars. The band club wins. The private war is reversed, and the school level sees a frenzy. Li Xiu gasped and pulled back the strings, his bloody hands trembling and the remaining heat from the pick burned his fingers. He turned to stare at Sheng Yan, his bloody face reflected in the mist eyes, and the cracks in his self-esteem suddenly melted like a spring breeze. Sheng Yan. I misunderstood last night. I heard wrong. When you said like, did you like the heartbeat of the riff? Not. Qin Feng. Falling, the crisis current rushed through her heart, her cheeks were as red as fire, the green ring trembled and she came closer, the scent of jasmine was soft and gentle. Idiot. I like you. Your craze captured me from the preliminaries. She accidentally touched his bloody hand, the current heated up and the misunderstanding was resolved. Li Xiu's heart was calm, and his self-respect was like a new string. He roared and hugged her, Qin Feng's strong arms hugged her, and the three-person team hugged tightly. The red, blue and green bracelets flashed wildly, and the blood and moonlight intertwined. Brother, school-level champion. Qin Feng laughed and slapped her on the back loudly. The bracelets flashed. Jiang Chen cried. Sheng Yan buried her shoulders with a tearful smile. Together, we will never be apart. Passers-by and freshmen screamed in admiration. God team. Li Xiu is invincible. But during the climax riff, the E string, pop, suddenly broke. The sharp staccato is harsh and the guitar buzzes like a defeated dog wailing. The whole place was dead silent. Li Xiu's fingers were frozen on the strings, he was sweating like rain, and his head was buzzing. Jiang Chen burst out laughing in the audience. Ha ha ha, king of broken strings. Get out of here, new life. The audience snickered. Qin Feng stopped playing the drums, his eyes widened in panic, Sheng Yan's keyboard trembled, and her face turned pale. Li Xiu. The embarrassment was like 1,000 arrows piercing the heart, and the counterattack dream was shattered for a moment, and the smell of gunpowder was soaring to the sky. Opening the door, braised eggplant and fragrant garlic smelled in my nose. My mother was sewing under the lamp, and she gasped when she looked up and saw her bloody hands. Son. How are your hands? Did you win the private battle? Live broadcast in the group exploded, and passers-by shouted, the god of broken strings. Dad turned off the TV, stretched his thick eyebrows and laughed, haha, the new king. Dad also had a broken blood when he was young. Play harder. Come on, the shredded green pepper meat is hot, let's celebrate. Li Xiu sat on the sofa with his legs crossed, Sheng Yan carefully wrapped the gauze, and the jasmine scent lingered gently. Auntie, the wound is deep but it's not harmful. Her mother noticed the ambiguity in her eyes and smiled as she picked up the food. Girls have good eyesight, music dreams and love, Mom supports it. Son, recast. Jiang Chen. School-level slap in the face. The little golden hair rushed out, licking the gauze with a hot tongue and the slippery sunshine smell, holding the frisbee in his mouth and wagging his tail, his eyes bright and his nose pointed at his knees. Fly. Li Xiu threw it fiercely, and the yellow shadow leaped into the air and bit it, and the saliva flowed back when he landed. He hugged the dog's body and warmed his fur to his chest. Xiao Huang, brother one. Qin Feng's voice boomed, brother Xiu, practice new variations tomorrow, and your bracelet will flash. Sheng Yan leaned on his shoulder and whispered, we shine at the school level. Her parents looked at the door, and her mother sighed, my fingers are steady, my heart is more stable, and I have grown up. Dad nodded, the champion. Jiang Chen's silver eyes were lowered, and he snorted coldly, good luck, the school will see the real seal. But when he turned around, his thin shoulders trembled slightly, and when the follower helped him up, he whispered, the broken string, the true king. The secret respect was like a shadow turning into light. The three of Li Xiu went downstairs, the night breeze became cooler, and the school lights faced them. Qin Feng slapped his shoulder, brother Xiu, go home and lick your wounds, your parents are waiting to brag. Sheng Yan's green ring swayed slightly and stuck to Li Xiu's arm, bandage your hands, my medicine box. Ambiguous feelings are lingering like musical notes, and self-esteem collides and turns into honey. At dusk the next day, practice was in full swing in the clubroom. The broken light of the setting sun penetrated the window, Qin Feng's drum beat rumbled and sweat flew away, Sheng Yan's keyboard surged with emotions, Li Xiu's new guitar strings hummed wildly with variations, and the trio's bracelets jingled against each other, and their tacit understanding reached its peak. The passing freshmen stared and sighed, Team God, the championship is scheduled. At the end of the practice, Sheng Yan stood up and stretched, the green ring swayed slightly, and she accidentally tripped over the keyboard cable, snap. She screamed and screamed, her wrists were twisted and swollen with bruises, and the keyboard cover fell off and buzzed intermittently. Ah! My hands, hurt. Li Xiu's heart sank, and he rushed to help her up, the blood faded. Sheng Yan. Sprained? On the eve of the school grade, the keyboard player. Qin Feng's face turned pale, fuck, crisis. Hurry to the infirmary. Her eyes were moist with tears, and the green ring was dim. Li Xiu. I can hold on, but... The peace of the team suddenly shattered, the school-level championship dream was on the verge, and a new shadow came back like a broken string. The afterglow of the sunset in the clubroom is like blood, broken gold is scattered on the keyboard, and the reverberation of the keyboard is intermittent. The air is filled with the smell of hot rubber mixed with sweat, pungent to the nose like the precursor of thunder. Sheng Yan curled up on the floor, her green bracelet came loose and fell into the dust. Blue and purple swelling sprang up from her wrists like poisonous snakes. Her skin was taut and hot. She bit her lip and whispered, tears falling down her cheeks and pattering to the floor. Her skirt was wrinkled and stained with keyboard cord dust. Li Xiu, it hurts. It hurts so much, school level, I'm done. Li Xiu's heart felt like it was falling into an ice cave, and he knelt down to help her. The dull pain from the old injury on his bloody hand touched her cold fingertips, and the jasmine hairpin potion hit his nostrils. There was a lump in his throat, and the crack in his self-esteem reappeared. The keyboard hand was crippled, and the iron triangle was broken. Qin Feng's strong body stood as stiff as an iron tower, drumsticks banging against the ground reverberated, sweat dripping from his red turban and making wet spots. His eyes were red and fierce. Fuck. 3 days in school, the core of the keyboard is disconnected. I'm carrying you in the infirmary. He moved his thick arm, and Sheng Yan's delicate body was as light as a fallen leaf and pressed against his back. The green ring swayed against him and the blue ring jingled. She buried her neck in sobs. Qin Feng. I'm sorry, I'm dragging the team down. The freshmen passing by the club pushed the door and peeked their heads in. They were trying to take a peek at the practice of the God team. When they saw this, their faces turned pale and they backed away. A girl's cell phone nearly dropped and her voice trembled like a candle in the wind. Sheng Yan, her wrists are swollen like steamed buns. The orchestra club is over. Jiang Chen, I'm laughing to death. The boy whispered and pushed his glasses down. The private war god has reversed. Now the keyboard is useless and the school level has been crushed to dust. The whispers outside the door were like a dark wind rolling the curtains. The lights in the club room were flickering, and the old fan blades were creaking and turning like a countdown. Li Xiu grabbed the old guitar, with blood marks and cracks on the broken string scratching the palm of his hand. The new riff was surging but jammed. He roared with a pick, and the humming was intermittently like the beating of his heart. Sheng Yan, hold on. Let's adjust, my master's harmony. But the sound came out hollow. Qin Feng rushed to the door with her behind her, the footsteps thumped on the floor, and the dust rustled on the ground. The sunset stretched out the silhouettes of the three of them like defeated soldiers. The white light in the infirmary is glaring, and the disinfectant water is sour and chokes the nose. The doctor's middle-aged fat hand presses Sheng Yan's swollen wrist, and the joints crackle slightly. She screams, her face twists and bursts into tears. The dislocation is slight, the ligament is strained, and I can't press the buttons hard for at least a week. School-level competition. Don't even think about it. Qin Feng punched the table, the iron frame buzzed, and the blue ring reflected the dim light. 1 week. 3 days countdown. The silver wing bass demo twists the soul. Our keyboard is broken, we are dead. Li Xiu stood against the wall, the old guitar on his shoulders was as heavy as a mountain, and the old gauze on the back of his hand was bleeding. He stared at Sheng Yan's pale face, his watery eyes reflected his weakness. The ambiguous electricity from last night turned into ice needles, and the misunderstanding was rekindled. Do you like me? But it became a burden. Brother Xiu. Qin Feng growled and turned his head, sweat drops splashing on the ground. I take care of you in shifts. You will take care of me during practice, and I will make up for the bass drum. Sheng Yan wrapped her wrists in gauze and hung her chest up. The green ring trembled slightly. She forced a smile and the corners of her lips twitched. Learn guitar. Li Xiu taught me the basics of harmony on the spot. But his voice was as weak as a candle in the wind. A boy whispered in the corridor outside. Inside story. Jiang Chen must know that the team's keyboard is injured. Night has engulfed the campus, the club rooms are empty and the lights are yellow, and the rubber mats are stained with sweat. Li Xiu strummed the old guitar alone, but his string-breaking skills were upgraded but to no avail. The new riff harmony was not smooth when he tried to play it, and the wooden body trembled and dust fell on his fingers like a harbinger of defeat. Qin Feng pushed the door open and walked in, carrying Sheng Yan's medicine bag on his shoulder. Zhuang's face was ashen. Brother Xiu, the doctor said to apply ice to reduce swelling and give medicine. Sheng Yan sleeps in the dormitory, and I will keep vigil. He clumsily removed the gauze with his thick fingers, and pressed the ice pack on the purple swelling. She curled up on the sofa and murmured, the jasmine fragrance faded away the bitterness of the lotion. Qin Feng, thank you, but the emotional wave of the school-level song lacks me. Jiang Chen crushes it with low frequency. We are destined to lose. Qin Feng's throat rolled like thunder, and his strong arm patted her shoulder. Sister, the iron triangle is still here. Brother Xiu will teach you how to pluck the strings, and I will add more emphasis to the drums. Li Xiu came closer, holding her gauze-wrapped fingers in his bloody hand, and the warm heat transmitted the ambiguous current and flickered faintly. Sheng Yan, starting from the C chord, don't use force on your wrists, I'll lead you with my fingers. She looked up with moist eyes, the green ring jingled against the red ring, her thin fingers touched his palm, the pick slid and buzzed, intermittently childish but filled with emotion, the air trembled slightly like a heartbeat waking up. But outside the streetlight, the ghost of Silver Wing's follower flashed across the street. The blue-haired guy was recording on his cell phone. The short, fat man breathed out the sour smell of tobacco and whispered, "Boss, there is a ghost report in the band club. The keyboard is useless. It's fatal to the school level." In the early morning of the next morning, the dormitory balcony was filled with mist. Qin Feng took turns feeding medicine. He held the porridge bowl in his strong palm and clinked the spoon. Sheng Yan raised her swollen wrists and her pale cheeks were slightly flushed. "Qin Feng, you didn't sleep last night. Your eyes are red and bloodshot." He laughed to cover up his fatigue, his red scarf tilted. "Old Iron Man. After eating, the club is practicing guitar harmony." Li Xiu came over, the old guitar was buzzing with new strings. He knelt down to teach her the basics, pressing her fingers with his left hand and picking the strings with his right hand. The scent of wood mixed with jasmine was lingering like notes. "Sheng Yan, do you feel the vibration of the strings? Feel it, inject it here." She bit her lip and tried to play, her swollen wrists were aching, and her riff was rising and falling, her eyes flashed with surprise. "Li Xiu. I heard your heartbeat, like a broken string in a private battle." Qin Feng's drumstick flew to fill the bottom, and the smell of sweat caused a wave of heat. "Bullshit. The connection is deep, the best in the school." But the club freshman passed by the window and sighed, "The keyboard is replaced by the guitar. Jiang Chen's bass demo has twisted the soul, and the Silver Wings are invincible." The three people's bracelets jingled like candles in the wind. At dusk, the door of the house opened, braised fish and garlic were tangy, and my mother's apron was stained with oil. She looked up and saw Li Xiu gasping with tired and bloody eyes. "Son. The club exploded," Sheng Yan sprained. "School-level crisis, resilience to withstand." Dad threw the newspaper, frowning thickly but forced a smile, holding a bowl of hot soup. "Fish soup replenishes qi and blood." Dad's young band also injured teammates, adjust the repertoire to reverse. "Tell me, what should I do?" Li Xiu sat cross-legged at the table with his old guitar leaning against the wall. The blood-stained metal was dim. He picked up the food and choked on his throat. "Dad, Sheng Yan's wrists are bruised and she can't play the keyboard for a week. I taught her guitar harmony and Qin Feng's heavy drums. But Jiang Chen, the fear in the private battle turned into murderous intent." His mother noticed with her eyes and gently touched his arm. "Silly boy, don't lose your self-esteem. Love and music will hurt you. It hurts to forge the iron triangle. Sheng Yan is such a sweet girl. Mom sees it." Dad raised his chopsticks and banged the bowl loudly. "Toughness. Xiao Huang, demonstrate persistence." Hearing the sound, the little golden hair rushed out and licked the wet and sunny smell of Li Xiu's gauze. He held the Frisbee toy and jumped into the air. The yellow shadow tumbled and bit the rolling circle, and the tip of his nose was drawn with saliva. "Fly." Li Xiu threw fiercely, and the yellow fur chased him endlessly. The warm fur pressed against his chest to disperse the haze. He hugged the dog tightly and whispered, "Xiao Huang, like us, never give up." His parents looked at each other and sighed, and his mother said, "Growing up in adversity, the champion family is waiting for you." In the fragrance of rice, the depression eased, but the mobile phone buzzed with the community group. Passers-by forwarded, the weakness of the orchestra club is exposed, the keyboard is broken and the silver wings are ecstatic. In the club room for night practice, the lights are dim and the fans are squeaking. Qin Feng's drums are pounding and sweat is pouring down like rain. Li Xiu's old guitar dominates the harmony, and new elements are injected, broken strings and distorted riffs mixed with Yan's immature emotional waves. The tacit understanding is like the recasting of an iron triangle. The buzzing climax shakes the window glass. Sheng Yan flicked her wrist, and the green ring flashed with a tearful smile. Li Xiu, we can do it. Qin Feng burst into laughter, school-level flash. There was a knock on the door, and Jiang Chen's tall and thin figure stood against the light, with a strange light shining in the depths of his silver eyes, carrying the ointment box in his hand, and the bass humming on his shoulder. The corners of his lips twitched slightly, and his voice was cold and nonchalant. Ointment, formulated by Dr. Silver Wing, will reduce swelling quickly. School level, real seal. The short, fat, blue-haired follower shrank back, his eyes widened and he did not dare to say anything. Li Xiu held the guitar stiffly and clasped the red ring tightly. Jiang Chen. You. Sheng Yan's eyes were startled, Qin Feng's fist clenched his bones. You bastard, a dirty trick. Jiang Chen's silver eyes lowered and he turned around, his thin shoulders trembling slightly and dropped the ointment. I don't owe you. Private battle. King broken string, respect. As he walked away, the ointment box rolled away dust, the fragrance of lavender filled his nostrils, and the cracks in the shadow of hostility shone through. But Qin Feng picked it up and sniffed it, breathing heavily. Fuck, are you serious? He must have a killer move at the school level. Adjusting the end of the track, the three of them sat around panting, their bracelets jingling red, blue and green. The new riff surged into emotion and the bass drum supported them, their tacit understanding was as deep as blood. Li Xiu whispered into Sheng Yan's ears, and the heat on her cheeks increased. Your waves, save us. She blushed and leaned on her shoulder, touching her swollen wrist lightly. Li Xiu, shine together. Qin Feng clapped his hands. Champion. Outside the club, the night wind rolled up the curtains and whispered, and the new ghost figure flashed past, and the mobile phone screen showed. Insider leaks, orchestra club keyboard injury, the track changed to weak guitar, and immature harmonies. Brother Jiang Chen, deadly bass demo upgrade, distort the soul and pierce the heart, the 3-day god-slaying team. The blue-haired follower screamed, boss, traitorous help, school-level bloodbath. Jiang Chen's silver eyes narrowed like blades, the strings on his bass strings cracked and roared like a wolf, and his thin face stretched out with a smile. The king of broken strings, knows all the weaknesses, the champion. The silver wing will bury you. Black clouds are coming, the last 2 days of the school level are coming, and the iron triangle dream is teetering on the edge. The night wind outside the club room was like a knife, the curtains rolled back, and the blue-haired ghost of the Silver Wings follower came out. The dim light of the mobile phone screen reflected his distorted breath, and the sour and rotten smell of tobacco flowed into the room along the wind, mixed with the sweaty and moldy smell of the rubber mat. Li Xiu's fingers still had the warmth of Sheng Yan's palm, and the red ring trembled slightly. When he looked up, Jiang Chen's tall and thin figure was already blocking the door. The bass hummed low frequency on his shoulder like the aftertaste of a wolf howl. His silver eyes narrowed, and the smile on his lips stretched into an arc. Broken string king, practicing new riffs at night. The inner ghost is right, the keyboard is injured, change it. The guitar harmonies are as childish as a baby's cry. The tuning weaknesses are all exposed, your magic string breaking skills, the school-level low frequency will break into shit. He strummed the bass strings with his fingers, and the distorted demo clip burst out, the soul roared to the ear, the indoor fan blades squeaked, and the dust fell like defeated snow. Li Xiu's heart sank, his self-esteem was like a broken string, and bloodshot threads from his old wounds were faintly seeping through the gauze. He held the pick tightly, his throat rolling but muted. Jiang Chen, is the ointment a tribute? Or a bait? Qin Feng's strong fist sounded, and sweat beads from the red scarf splashed onto the wet spots on the ground, ferocious. She roared loudly, "Get out of here, you dwarf! The boss can't hide his killer move, the school level will show you the truth." Sheng Yan's swollen wrists trembled with the green ring, a blush flashed across her pale cheeks, she curled up on the sofa, the scent of jasmine faded away the bitterness of the potion, and she whispered tremblingly, "Jiang Chen, where did the information come from?" A new student passed by outside the door, his footsteps suddenly stopped, his eyes widened and almost fell. The boy pushed his glasses and slipped off the tip of his nose. The forwarded group message on his mobile phone buzzed and vibrated, silver wings blocked the door. Live broadcast of the band club's weakness, broken tuning and broken strings, Jiang Chen's bass demo upgrade twisted the soul, pierced the heart and bloodbathed. The girl breathed quickly and covered her mouth and retreated, her voice was like a candle in the wind. "It's over, the magic team's iron triangle is broken, the school the last 2 days of the class, the immature harmonies could not withstand the low-frequency crushing, and the dream of the championship was in vain." The whispers were like the dark wind rolling the curtains, the lights in the club room dimmed, and Jiang Chen's silver eyes flickered. He dropped the sarcasm like ice needles, turned his thin shoulders slightly and walked away, the lingering sound of the bass echoed in the corridor, knowing all the weaknesses, the broken string king. "I will bury you in the craze." The blue-haired follower followed with a ghostly smile, and the smell of smoke drifted away. Li Xiu stood frozen on the spot, the old guitar body was as heavy as a hammer pressing against his chest, and his psychological game was like a broken string being plucked randomly. He was in awe of Jiang Chen's genius, but hated the intelligence inside her. His pride collided with misunderstandings. Is Sheng Yan trying a dirty trick by me to protect my shortcomings? The team is being dragged down, and it's all my fault for unstable tuning. Qin Feng picked up the drum stick with his strong arms and smashed it to the ground with a loud bang. The sweaty heat wave hit his face. "Brother Xiu, don't listen to the bastard. I'm heavy on the top of the drum, and the school level is flashing." But the voice came out hollow, Sheng Yan's tearful eyes drooped, the green ring came loose and fell into dust. "I'm sorry. I recovered slowly, and the information was leaked, you lose to me." The night is getting deeper, the fan in the empty club room is creaking like a countdown, Li Xiu is sitting alone under the lamp, the old guitar has blood marks and cracks on the knee and is grinding into new blood on the palm, trying new riffs with the pick, the string-breaking skill is upgraded, but it jams and buzzes intermittently, the tuning weakness is as Jiang Chen said, the low-frequency imagination is distorted and the soul is colliding. A private battle with the king of string-breaking flashes in his mind, but he laughs at himself and grits his teeth, so what if he is a genius? Resilience is king. Beads of sweat hit the strings along the forehead, the fragrance of wood mixed with blood hits the nostrils, and the mind seesaws, giving up dreams to protect self-esteem. Or sacrifice night practice to break the game. His fingers were whirling to adjust the machine, and the C chord was undulating and injecting emotional waves, from tender to turbulent, and the buzzing climax shook the window glass slightly. He growled and whispered to himself, "Jiang Chen, weakness. I turn poison into medicine." At 2 o'clock in the morning, Qin Feng pushed the door open and walked in. His eyes were filled with red bloodshot eyes due to tiredness. He carried ointment and ice packs on his shoulders and covered his face with a rough smile. "Brother Xiu, it's humorous time. Imagine Jiang Chen's short bass version, tripping while playing, He awkwardly removed the gauze and pressed it. The lavender ointment was on the swollen wrist, and the purple swelling was slightly reduced. She curled up on the sofa and whispered, laughing, and the green ring touched his blue ring jingle, "Qin Feng, you are an iron man, you kept me asleep last night." Qin Feng slapped his chest with his palm and said loudly, "Sister, iron triangle. Brother Xiu is so good at practicing at night, his new riff is flying, he is top of the school class." Li Xiu raised his head, the fire in his eyes was rekindled, and the psychological game tilted, brotherly support, ambiguity and persistence, growth is not genius, but persistence. In the early morning fog filled the dormitory, the gauze on Sheng Yan wrist was loosened, and half of the bruises were reduced by the miraculous ointment. She tried pressing the air button to gasp for breath, but she forced herself to laugh and stood up. Li Xiu, I'm back in the team. The guitar harmonies are familiar, and the waves of emotion are injected. The morning light shines in the room, and the three of them are reunited. The red, blue and green bracelets jingle and jingle melodiously, Qin Feng's drum sticks fly and the bass drum roars like rain. Li Xiu's old guitar takes the lead, broken strings and riffs mix with Sheng Yan's immature plucking of strings, and the buzzing tacit understanding is as deep as blood. She placed her thin fingers on his palm, and the warm and ambiguous electric current flickered. The fragrance of jasmine mixed with the fragrance of wood, and he whispered in his ear, Sheng Yan, your waves, save iron triangle. She blushed and leaned on her shoulder, and touched the red ring with her swollen wrist. Li Xiu, my heartbeats are synchronized, like a private battle. The freshman passed by the window, whispering pessimistically, hearing the ups and downs of climax and stood dumbfounded. The boy breathed heavily, what? The keyboard is broken and the tune is stable. The girl's phone was almost lost, her voice was trembling, the team's reversal. Jiang Chen's intelligence failed, the new riff soul is not defeated. The slight reversal is like the morning light cracking the clouds, but the team is buzzing with excitement, the insider is reporting an error. In the evening, the door of the house opened. Braised pork with garlic and spicy flavor was tangy and rich. My mother's apron was stained with oil and she was serving soup. She looked up and saw Li Xiu with blood-stained eyes and gasped tiredly, son. The crowd exploded. Jiang Chen blocked the door to pick out the weakness of the tune. The crisis is huge, but the resilience is the best. Dad threw the newspaper loudly on the table, his thick eyebrows were furrowed but his eyes showed pride. In the bowl of meat, Dad also encountered strong enemies in the band when he was young, and he broke through during night practice. Bureau. Say what you want. Li Xiu sat cross-legged at the table, leaning against the wall while the old guitar was humming. He picked up the food with a lump in his throat. Dad, Jiang Chen knows everything about my broken strings, and my self-esteem is on the verge of collapse. But after practicing at night, Sheng Yan returned to the team with a strong sense of humor. The true meaning of growth is not to be a genius, but to never give up. His mother noticed the ambiguous sweetness in her eyes. Hot, silly boy, blessed by love music, Sheng Yan is a good girl, and the bracelet promises to flash. Pain-forged iron, mother believes in the champion. Dad raised his chopsticks and knocked on the bowl loudly, yes. Xiao Huang, demonstrate the passion. The little golden hare smelled the fragrance and sprang out, barking and running on the knees, licking Li Xiu's gauze with a hot tongue and the slippery sunshine smell, holding a Frisbee toy, spiraling into the air, biting the rolling ring, saliva brushing the tip of the palm during the carnival, yellow shadows rolled and warm fur clung to his chest. Fly. Fly. Li Xiu chased endlessly, tears of laughter dispelled the haze. He hugged the dog tightly and murmured, Xiao Huang, like us, never give up in adversity, the bracelet oath is rekindled. His parents looked at each other and sighed warmly, and in the fragrance of rice, his psychological game was settled, self-esteem collided and turned into fuel, misunderstanding turned into ambiguous fuel, and growth was like rebirth after a broken string. Night practice rekindled the club room, with yellow lights and fans squeaking. 3 people sat around and held up their bracelets, clinking and clanking, with red, blue and green flashing like sparks. Iron triangle. School-level champion. Li Xiu strummed the old guitar wildly, and the new riff surging string-breaking skills merged with Sheng Yan's emotional waves. Sheng Yan's green ring trembled slightly, her eyes moistened and she smiled, Li Xiu, we shine. Qin Feng's laughter broke out in the sweaty heat wave, Jiang Chen. The dwarf is buried. The new ghosts outside the door watched, wide-eyed, trembling and whispering in admiration, the God team's night training soul blast. The tuning weakness is gone, the new song is distorted. Lose to the silver wings, counterattack. The club news was buzzing, the orchestra club has returned to the team, the emotional wave has been withstood, Jiang Chen's intelligence has failed. But the dark clouds have not cleared, and with the countdown to the day, the lottery hall is brightly lit, the crowd is crowded and sweaty, shouting excitedly, and the lottery note for Team Li Xiu is unfolding, a head-on confrontation with the silver wings. Familiar figures suddenly flashed under the stage. Sheng Yan's parents stood plainly in suits. Her mother's eyes were moist and she held her father's hand. His father shouted in a rough voice, "Daughter, iron triangle, flash." Sheng Yan's cheeks turned red and she pulled Li Xiu's sleeves, and the ambiguous current surged, "Mom and Dad, look at us. Attack." Jiang Chen's silver eyes narrowed in the distance, the bass hummed and howled, and his thin face smiled strangely, "Broken string king, face to face, bloodbath." The crisis is like a broken string, the iron triangle bracelets are tightly clasped, the heartbeats are beating in unison, and the school-level stage frenzy is coming. The lights in the lottery hall were like boiling lava, and the crowd's sweat, smell, and excited shouts intertwined into a sticky heat wave. The moment the note was unfolded at Li Xiu's fingertips, the air in the entire place seemed to solidify into ice needles that pierced the bones. Silver wings, head-to-head confrontation. In the audience, Sheng Yan's parents' suits were rumpled. Her mother's eyes sparkled and she held her father's rough hand tightly. His father's throat rolled and he roared like muffled thunder, "Daughter, the iron triangle, flash." Sheng Yan's sleeves were unintentionally tightened by Li Xiu, and the thin green ring on her wrist lightly touched the red one. Ring, ambiguous electric current ran up her arm, her crimson cheeks lowered and she whispered, "Mom and Dad are here, we can't lose." Qin Feng's fist hit his palm with a crackling sound, and sweat beads in the red scarf splashed, "Brother Xiu, a bloody battle head-on. I beat the dwarf with a heavy drum." But Jiang Chen's silver eyes narrowed into slits in the distance, and the low-frequency buzz on his shoulders was like a pack of wolves approaching, and his thin lips stretched into a strange smile, "Broken string king." Bloodbath frenzy, the whispers of the new students outside the hall exploded, and the dim light of the mobile phone screen reflected the widened eyes, head-on confrontation. The orchestra club is over. The silver wings know all the information, the tuning weakness is low-frequency crushing, and the champion is Jiang Chen. The girl breathed quickly and covered her chest and retreated, so what if the iron triangle returns to the team? The immature emotional wave cannot withstand the twisted soul, and the dream is shattered. The night fell like an iron curtain, the yellow lights in the club room swayed, the fan creaked like a countdown to the heartbeat, Li Xiu's old guitar lay across his knees, the blood-stained and cracked wooden body weighed heavily on his hands, the new riff string-breaking skill was stuck at the final tuning level, and the low-frequency buzzing was intermittently like a heart twitching. Beads of sweat hit the strings along his forehead, and the scent of wood mixed with blood hit his nose. He gritted his teeth and growled, "Jiang Chen knows all about the weaknesses. I'm still stuck in tuning." Qin Feng's strong body collapsed on the drum set, red bloodshot eyes covered his eyes, the drumsticks hit the bass drum and the floor was dusty, sweaty and hot waves rolled, "Brother Xiu, top. Imagine the dwarf bass tripping, But the low frequency, the soul pierces my ears. Membrane." The gauze on Sheng Yan's wrist was loosened, and the lingering scent of the ointment faded away. She tried pressing the keyboard with her thin fingers. The bruises were half gone but she gasped in pain. Green Huan trembled with tears in her eyes, "I'm sorry. My emotional waves are unstable, and the guitar harmony is still immature, which drags down the Audio-Technica." The air in the room was like lead, and the three people's bracelets jingled red, blue, and green, but the sound was hollow like a bell ringing in defeat. The freshman passed by the window, suddenly stopped, stared and whispered, "The rehearsal was stuck the night before." The tuning crisis broke out again, and the team's tacit understanding was shattered. The Silver Wings laughed wildly, the intelligence failure was an illusion, and there was a bloodbath from the front. Despair was like a broken string, and Li Xiu's self-esteem burned. The mind flashed back to the home braised pork with spicy garlic, the little golden hair kneeling on the knees, hot tongue licking yarn, carnival and warm hair to disperse the haze. He gripped the pick fiercely, and new blood on his fingertips seeped out of the wooden body. Abandon? Impossible. His fingers flew to adjust the mechanical head, and the C chord fluctuated into the poisonous fire of night practice. Qin Feng's eyes widened, and he slapped his knees with his strong palms, his voice trembling and laughing to cover up his shock. Brother Xiu. This, soul is flying. The low frequency is not inferior to the distortion, I will keep up with the heavy drums. His drum sticks were spinning wildly, the bass drum thundered and shook the wall, and the dust fell like an avalanche, and sweat fell like rain and heat waves on his face. Sheng Yan's pale cheeks flashed crimson, and the thin fingers covered Li Xiu's palm, and a warm current surged up. The fragrance of jasmine mixed with the woody fragrance hit her nostrils. Her tears flashed and the keyboard injected waves of emotion, and the childishness turned into a turbulent buzzing resonance. Li Xiu, the heartbeats are synchronized, like a private battle. We are perfect. The bracelets of the three people were raised high and collided with each other, red, blue and green sparks flickering, a tacit understanding like the deep fusion of blood, and the climax riff shook the fan blades and creaked intermittently. A new student ghosted around the window, breathing heavily and almost losing his cell phone. What? The tuning crisis has been broken. Li Xiu's solo transformation, his skills are as strong as the silver wings, and the iron triangle has a perfect tacit understanding. The girl's voice trembled and she shouted in admiration, reversal. The rehearsal the night before rehearsed and the soul was ablaze, and the school-level championship dream is reborn. Late at night, Li Xiu took inventory of his harvest. The old guitar wiped away the blood marks and cracks like a medal, and his magical string-breaking skills were upgraded. The three of them had a tacit understanding like an iron triangle. Misunderstandings were resolved, ambiguity bloomed, and self-respect was forged with passion. He plucked the strings with his eyes closed, and the new riff surged like a prediction of victory. Xiao Huang curled up with his feet and snored, his breath warm. The mobile phone buzzed with praises from the community, passers-by forwarded, private god of war reversal, there are 3 days left for the school competition, and the youth craze is ready to start. The stadium was brightly lit like a furnace during the day. Thousands of people in the school packed the gymnasium. The sweaty air was filled with excited shouts mixed with the sweetness of popcorn. The aftermath of the draw was broadcast live on the giant screen, head-on showdown. Silver Wings vs Orchestra Club. Sheng Yan in the audience. The mother stood in the front row, holding his father's hand with tears in her eyes, and the father shouted harshly, "Daughter, flash." Li Xiu's parents, Xiao Huang, were guarding the live broadcast. The mother, wearing an apron, stroked her arms and whispered, "My son is very resilient." Xiao Huang's knees were bent and the yellow shadow was tumbling after the Frisbee. The iron triangle bracelets were tightly clasped on the stage, under the flashing red, blue and green spotlights. Li Xiu's old guitar was buzzing with bloodstains and cracks on its wooden body, Qin Feng's drum set was as strong as a chariot, and Sheng Yan's green keyboard trembled. Jiang Chen started the game, with a tall and thin figure carrying a silver-eyed sword on his shoulder. The blue-haired follower was moving ghostly and smelling smoke. The follower had a nosebleed and whispered, "Boss, the intelligence failed." But the twisted demo was upgraded, bloodbath. The lights dimmed, and Silver Wings opened with a low-frequency wolf howl that made the twisted soul pierce the membranes. There were thousands of people in the audience. His breath froze, his heart felt like it was being pulled by an iron hook, the riff waveform on the giant screen was twisted like a ghost's claw, the girl screamed and covered her ears, "Soul." The Silver Wings are invincible, the low frequency crushes the iron triangle's weak points and all the weaknesses are exposed. The boy's glasses fell down and his eyes widened. Jiang Chen is a genius, the king of broken strings can't even withstand the tuning stability, the champion is guaranteed. Jiang Chen's thin lips stretched into a strange smile, and the finger-picked bass string demo exploded into an upgraded version. His soul roar hit the bone marrow, and the Silver Wings followers' harmonies were childish but twisted and sharp. The smoke on the stage was filled with the smell of sour tobacco, and the Silver Wings jumped to the first place on the scoreboard. The audience whispered like a sinister wind, "The orchestra is over. The intelligence insider is accurate, and the keyboard injury is dragging down, the guitar strings are broken." Li Xiu's heart sank, his pride collided like a broken string, and Sheng Yan held the green ring warmly, his throat rolling. "Jiang Chen, strike first." Qin Feng punched hard, and the red scarf hit the ground with sweat. "Brother Xiu, I am thunderous." Sheng Yan whispered with tears in her eyes. The lights flashed on, and Audio-Technica counterattacked. Li Xiu plucked the old guitar wildly, and the string-breaking skill transformed into a solo that exploded violently. The new riff's low-frequency hum merged with the emotional wave without losing distortion, piercing the eardrums of the audience like a volcano erupting. The wooden body was bloody and cracked, and the string wires whirled and climaxed, shaking the floor and making the floor dusty. Qin Feng's heavy drums roared like thunder, the bass drum shook the sky, sweat flew and heat waves rolled in, and the drum sticks whirled and crackled like a tomahawk splitting the mountain. Sheng Yan's keyboard tears shimmer and inject emotional waves, which turn from immature to turbulent and buzzing with resonance, and the scent of jasmine is mixed with the scent of wood and the smell of sweat. Thousands of people in the audience stared wide-eyed and breathed heavily. The iron triangle on the scoreboard counterattacked and took the lead. The freshmen in the audience screamed and worshipped. Li Xiu's solo is shocking. The transformation of the king of broken strings, the magical low-frequency top distortion, the tacit understanding is perfect. The girl's phone dropped to the ground with a trembling voice. The iron triangle explodes. Qin Feng's thunder drum, Sheng Yan's tears, Jiang Chen's intelligence failed, and the head-on reversal. Sheng Yan's parents looked at each other with tears in their eyes, and her father yelled roughly, "Flash! Daughter iron triangle!" Jiang Chen's silver eyes flashed with strange light and trembled slightly, the thin-shouldered bass hummed, and the blue-haired followers grimaced twisted and breathed rapidly. "Boss, their new riff's soul is not defeated, and his weakness is turned into poison." The passionate duel ignited the audience. The iron triangle took the lead halfway through the 3 songs. The stage was filled with smoke, sweat, smelly wood and blood intertwined. The red, blue and green bracelets jingled against each other like war drums. Sheng Yan murmured in Li Xiu's ear, "Li Xiu, we shine, our heartbeats are synchronized." His eyes were blazing, and he returned his palms with blazing fire. The ambiguous current in his palms heated up, and his self-esteem burned with power. Qin Feng laughed in the sweat-smelling heat wave. "Dwarf, Barry." The whole audience shouted like a tsunami. "Orchestra club. Counterattack." But at the last song, the lights suddenly went out and the black curtain engulfed him, the circuit malfunction cut off the buzzing, the sound of Li Xiu's guitar disappeared without a trace, the strings became silent as if the heart stopped, and thousands of people in the audience gasped, ice needles piercing the bones, and the crisis came. The breaths of thousands of people in the audience froze into ice, the darkness of the stadium was like an abyss swallowing the spotlight, the buzzing sound of the circuit was still reverberating in the eardrums, the strings of Li Xiu's old guitar misfired, the fingers were as stiff as iron hooks under the bloody cracks on the wooden body, and the warmth in the palm of his hand suddenly became cold. The green ring on her thin wrist trembled slightly, the keyboard screen was black and silent, her tearful eyes shone with water in the darkness and she whispered, "Li Xiu." The lights went out and his heartbeat stopped. The back of Qin Feng's strong body drum set swayed, the drum sticks hit the air and made a clicking sound, the sweat beads in the red scarf hit the ground, and he gasped like thunder, "Brother Xiu. Old man. The rhythm is broken, the dwarf is laughing to death." The whispers of the freshmen in the audience exploded into the dark wind, and their eyes widened in the dim light of the mobile phone screen. Circuit failure. The iron triangle is over. The devil in silver wing intelligence has already known, and the tacit understanding of the lights is out, and the freshmen's dreams are shattered. The mixed popcorn turned from sweet to sour, Sheng Yan is dragged down, and the guitar string king is playing blindly without a light. Jiang Chen is a genius and bursts out laughing, the championship is guaranteed. The scoreboard was frozen in the green peripheral light, and the blue-haired ghost of the Silver Wings follower moved with nosebleeds and whispered the smell of smoke, boss, chance. The weakness is exposed, the twisted demo restarts the bloodbath. A strange light flashed in the depths of Jiang Chen's silver eyes, his thin lips stretched like a wolf's howl, the bass hummed low frequency, and the tall figure approached like a ghost in the black screen. The lights are out at the funeral, the intelligence has failed. Despair was like a black tide, and Li Xiu's self-esteem was burned to ashes. The scene of his family's braised pork with spicy garlic filling his nostrils, the little golden hair crouching on his knees, hot tongue licking gauze orgies and warm hair dispersing the haze, and the image of his parents' aprons holding each other's thick palms and whispering, "Toughness top," flashed like fire. His throat was filled with fire, he gritted his teeth and his lips were bloodshot. In the darkness, his fingers touched the strings based on memory. The string-breaking skill transformed into a new solo riff, and the low-frequency buzz erupted from the bottom of his heart. The pick flew around under the bloody cracks on the wooden body without relying on the light. The surge of Sheng Yan's emotional waves pierced the darkness like volcanic lava. Iron Triangle, immortal. He roared and shook the air. The sound of his guitar was played blindly but accurately without lights. The floor was dusty and vibrating like a heart beating again. Qin Feng's eyes widened in the darkness, his strong palms clapped his knees and his voice trembled with laughter to hide his shock. "Brother Xiu. The memory of the solo is flying. I keep the rhythm, and the thunder drum follows." The drumstick blindly hit the bass drum with a thunderous roar, sweat flying and heat waves rolling without any disorder. The heavy drum was like a chariot crushing the black curtain, and the crackling sound shook the wall and made an avalanche of dust. Sheng Yan's pale cheeks flashed red, and her thin fingers covered Li Xiu's palm. Warm current surged up, and the scent of jasmine and wood mixed with blood hit his nostrils. She blindly pressed the keyboard with tears to inject waves of emotion, and the childishness turned into a turbulent buzzing resonance to guide the whole song. Li Xiu. The heartbeats are synchronized, like a private battle without lights. The green ring flashes, keep up. The red, blue and green bracelets of the three people collided in the dark, and their tacit blood was like a burst of fluorescence. The riff's low-frequency wolf howl was not inferior to the distortion, and it pierced the bones of the audience. Thousands of people in the audience gasped, and their blood boiled. The first row of new mobile phone lights lit up like a galaxy, and the light beams from the blue screen converged on the stage to illuminate the sweaty figure of Audio-Technica. They shouted like a tsunami, blind performance without lights. Li Xiu's magical memory skill. The transformation of the string-breaking king, and the surging solo. Twisted. The girl breathed heavily and her voice trembled as she screamed in admiration. Sheng Yan's emotional wave is guided perfectly, Qin Feng's drum is as stable as iron. The iron triangle is immortal, against the sky. The sea of mobile phone lights is like a silver wing, but the spotlight is even more dazzling, and the scoreboard is dancing in a faint green color, and the iron triangle is leading. Sheng Yan's parents stood in the front row. Her mother's eyes were filled with tears and she held her father's rough hand. His father's throat rolled and he roared like muffled thunder, "Daughter, the iron triangle flashes. Without a lamp, the soul burns." Li Xiu's parents watched the live broadcast screen, and her mother in her apron stroked her arms and whispered with tears in her eyes. "My son's resilience. I can withstand my music dream, and my silly child will grow up." The little golden fur arches its knees in front of the house, holding a frisbee in the air and chasing yellow shadows. The tumbling warm fur symbolizes the passion for keeping the family. The light of the live TV broadcast illuminates its golden fur and sparkles like a bracelet rekindling an oath. Jiang Chen's tall and thin figure froze at the edge of the black screen, his silver eyes widened as if being pulled by an iron hook, the bass droned intermittently at a low frequency, and the smile on his thin lips collapsed into a trembling twitch. Memory blind play. New riff low frequency, not inferior to my demo, weakness turned into poison. The blue-haired follower's grimace was twisted, nosebleeds were sprayed out, and the smell of smoke was mixed with sweat. Sore, his knees went soft and his voice cracked. "Boss, they have a tacit understanding of blood, and the lights are out and they fight back. All intelligence is ruined, Silver Wing's twists and souls are shattered." Silver Wing's followers moved around and their figures were in a mess. The harmony was young and sharp but the beats were intermittent, the stage was filled with smoke and the smell of sour tobacco was crushed by the bloody smell of Iron Triangle's woody sweat. Thousands of people in the audience were waving their mobile phone lights wildly like a frenzy, and the boys' glasses fell off and their eyes widened, and their breath stopped. Jiang Chen's genius is defeated. Preemptive strike turns to despair, the broken string king has no Jin, the Iron Triangle champion is stable. The girls' blushing cheeks screamed and worshipped, the ambiguous heartbeats are synchronized, Li Xiu Sheng Yan's palms are electric, youth is burning. The silver-winged dwarf is buried, the school-level legendary student. Li Xiu's inner growth explodes like a rift climax, self-esteem collides with misunderstandings and turns into power. In the darkness, Sheng Yan leans over his shoulder and whispers hot breath against his face. "Your solo shakes my heart, just like our bracelets will never die." The ambiguous current heats up and the green ring touches the red ring. His eyes are blazing and he holds his thin wrist back. "Sheng Yan, the emotional wave is perfect, we shine." Qin Feng laughed and sweated. The stinking heat wave of billowing drum sticks whirled. "Brother Xiu is awesome. Go regret it, dwarf, I'm thunderous." The lightless ensemble reached its final climax, and the three people played blindly in tacit understanding like the sound of blood. The low-frequency hum merged with the emotional waves and penetrated the ceiling. The wooden body of the guitar vibrated and the cracks on the floor expanded like a gray avalanche. The tearful resonance of the keyboard buzzed like a heartbeat tsunami, and the thunderous thunder of the heavy drum and bass drum shook the walls of the hall. The sea of mobile phone lights and thousands of sparks gathered into the Milky Way, illuminating the Iron Triangle bracelet with red, blue and green stars, and the oath struck the bones of the audience. Jiang Chen took a step back, his thin shoulders trembling, the bass strings were broken, and traces of blood seeped into his palms. His silver eyes flickered with awe in the depths of his eyes and then growled in despair. "Broken String King, you won this round. I had wrong intelligence, and my weakness turned into a magical skill." His head rolled, his strange smile elongated and turned bitter. The blue-haired follower climbed up and ran away as a ghost, breathing rapidly. "The boss is defeated. The silver-winged dream is shattered, and the Iron Triangle is invincible." The whole audience shouted and worshipped like a volcano erupting. "God Li Xiu. The memory of solo is incredible, the Iron Triangle school-level champion." The whispers of the new students turned into enthusiasm, and the dim light of the mobile phone video reflected the admiration in the eyes. Jiang Chen's genius regretted, the crisis turned into a legend. Li Xiu's growth and transformation, his self-esteem burned into the flames of a championship. Sheng Yan's parents hugged each other with tears, and the father yelled through the black screen, "Shine! My daughter, the Iron Triangle, will never be defeated." The little yellow girl of the family rushed to the TV, licking the screen and symbolizing the eternal love of the family. At 4 o'clock in the morning, the club room was filled with fog, sweat, woody fragrance, and blood. The three of them sat paralyzed and panted, their bracelets jingling as if their vows were rekindled. Li Xiu raised his head and his eyes were full of fire. Sheng Yan leaned against his shoulder and whispered, "Your solo shocked my heart." Qin Feng burst into laughter. "Brother Xiu is awesome. The dwarf will be buried." The club outside the door was buzzing with excitement. The night before the orchestra club was a great practice. The new riff's low-frequency top is distorted, the intelligence is completely useless, don't be afraid of the front. The spotlight pierced through the shadow of the black screen like a furnace of white flames. The sweaty woody scent of blood mixed with the aftertaste of jasmine in the air of the stadium, and the low frequency of the reviving buzzing circuit still trembled on the floor. The bloodstains and cracks on the wooden body of Li Xiu's old guitar slowly converged, and the low-frequency wolf howl of the broken strings and new riff stabbed directly into the bone marrow. His palms were warm and his thin wrists trembled slightly, and the green and red rings collided and jingled like the aftertaste of a heartbeat. Qin Feng's strong body leaned back to the edge of the drum set, and beads of sweat from the red scarf fell down his forehead and hit the ground. He gasped and laughed like thunder, "Brother Xiu, the wave without lights, my heart flew with the solo." The breaths of thousands of people in the audience were still stuck in their throats. The sea of blue stars on the mobile phone dimmed slowly, turning to focus on the huge screen of the scoreboard. The green light beat like the pulse of the heart. The leading numbers of the iron triangle were frozen on the edge. The shadow of the low score of the Silver Wings Twisted demo was approaching, and the championship was decided by a hanging thread. The fire in Li Xiu's eyes gradually dimmed, and the memory of solo that had transformed in the darkness receded like a tide. He lowered his head and stared at the red ring on his wrist, and his mind flashed back to the torment of the club's night practice. His fingers scratched with blood blisters under the dim light bulb as he plucked the strings. Qin Feng's strong arm took turns patting his shoulders and yelled, "Brother Xiu, hold on, the thunder drum is waiting for you to riff." Sheng Yan's wrist ointment was fragrant with lavender, and his thin fingers trembled as he pressed the keyboard blindly and murmured, "Emotional waves, keep up with your heartbeat." At that time, Jiang Chen's intelligent spy was eavesdropping, and the silver-winged blue-haired ghost attacked at night and taunted, "The broken string king's night training will expose your weaknesses, and the lights will go out and you will be buried." His self-esteem was like a knife, and the braised pork and garlic door of his parents' house was filled with hot air. His thick palms clasped each other and whispered, "Toughness, don't break the music dream." On the day of the exchange of red, blue and green bracelets, under the moonlight in the dormitory, the three of them stacked their palms and vowed sonorously, "The iron triangle will never be destroyed, we will advance and retreat together." The fragrance of jasmine mixed with the smell of sweat and wood, and the ambiguous current first flowed through Sheng Yan's crimson cheeks, lowering their heads to touch the green ring and the red ring. Li Xiu's throat rolled, and the red ring shone like a rekindled fire. He whispered, shaking the air, "Brothers, we withstood it." The green light on the scoreboard flashed wildly like the precursor of a thunderstorm, and the breaths of the audience froze into ice needles. The freshmen in the first row stared wide-eyed and could not hold their mobile phones, and the whispers exploded in the dark wind. The iron triangle reversed without lights and widened the lead, but the Silver Wings' final demo was twisted and contained a killer move. Jiang Chen's genius bass is poised for a low-frequency wolf howl, and the championship is hanging. The girl's blushing cheeks and short breath turned sour from the sweetness of the popcorn, and the screen of her mobile phone reflected the admiration of water. Li Xiu's amazing solo skills are remembered, Sheng Yan's emotional waves are perfect, Qin Feng's thunder drum is as steady as a mountain, but the intelligence fails, Jiang Chen won't let it go. The mother in the front row of Sheng Yan's parents held her father's rough hand with tears in her eyes, and her father's throat rolled and he roared like a muffled thunder, "Daughter, the iron triangle flashes, hold on." In front of the live broadcast screen at home, Li Xiu's father, the silhouette of the mother in the apron overlapped. The mother caressed her arms and whispered with tears twinkling, "Silly boy grows up, with the blessing of a resilient music dream, the champion believes in you." The little yellow dog ran wildly and crossed his knees, holding a frisbee in the air to chase the yellow shadow and tumbling around. The golden hair shimmered in the TV light like a bracelet and vowed to keep watch. At the edge of the Silver Wing stage, Jiang Chen's tall and thin figure was as stiff as an iron hook, his silver eyes stared at the screen, his thin lips trembled and cracked with light, the bass strings were broken and blood stains were left, and the residual warmth stung his palms, and the intermittent low-frequency wolf howl sounded like the wail of a defeated dog. The blue-haired follower had a twisted grimace, nosebleeds, stinky smoke mixed with sweat, his knees were weak, and he was trembling in a low voice, "Boss, the intelligence is completely useless, blind playing without lights turns their weaknesses into magical skills, the demo is twisted and soul-shattering, and the scoring is in crisis." Jiang Chen's throat rolled and misfired, and the strange smile elongated into a bitter twitch. With his thin fingers tightly holding the bass on his shoulders, he hummed low frequency and prepared for the final blow, "King of broken strings. I'll restart the demo and wash this game with blood." He stepped on the metronome, and the silver-winged harmony was young and sharp, and the ghostly ghost of the blue-haired follower was snoring rapidly and the sour tobacco was hitting his nostrils, trying to counterattack the green light of the scoreboard. But Jiang Chen's silver eyes sparkled with awe in the depths, and the pressure was like a black tide. The lead singer's high notes were abrupt and out of tune, as harsh as broken glass, the bass's low-frequency wolf howled with broken beats, and the twisted demo soul collapsed into a cacophony of roars. The whole audience gasped, and the ice needles pierced the bones, and the passerby boy's glasses fell off, his eyes widened, and his breath stopped. Jiang Chen's genius made a mistake. The lead singer was out of tune and the bass was intermittent, the intelligence failed, the mentality collapsed, and the silver-winged dream was shattered. The girl screamed and covered her ears and retreated, her voice trembling and mocking. The dwarf's dirty tricks are all useless. Jiang Chen's skinny monkey panicked, the high pitch broke the glass, the champion is in the iron triangle. The three members of the Audio-Technica have a tacit understanding of each other. Li Xiu's old guitar pick is whirling, the riff is steady and the low-frequency buzz is undisturbed, and the floor beneath the blood-stained and cracked wooden body trembles slightly, and there are grey rustling aftershocks. Sheng Yan's thin fingers covered the keyboard and she pressed blindly to turn steady. The wave of emotion injected into the childishness turned turbulent and the buzzing resonance was like a heartbeat tsunami. The green ring trembled lightly against Li Xiu's shoulder. The hot breath hit his ears with the scent of jasmine and wood. Li Xiu, play steadily, the bracelets are synchronized, let's flash. Qin Feng clapped his hands. Knees roared, drumsticks blindly hit the bass drum, and the thunder was as steady as a chariot. Heat waves rolled off the sweat, and the red headscarf was soaked and rough laughter shook the air. Brother Xiu, Yanmei, I can hold on to the thunder drum, and the dwarf made a mistake and died laughing. The green light of the scoreboard finally settled, and the iron triangle score exploded to lead the counterattack championship. A giant the screen flashed, Iron Triangle, champion of the school-level music competition. Thousands of people in the audience held their breath for 3 seconds, and the tsunami roar exploded and broke through the roof of the hall. Li Xiu Shen. The blind performance without lights is unbelievable. The Audio-Technica champion is a school-level legend. The mobile phone video of the freshman's whispers shone brightly on Chong Chong. Paying homage to the eyes, Jiang Chen's genius was defeated and made mistakes, and the high-pitched broken heart collapsed. The king of broken strings grew up and transformed into a fire of self-esteem and became a champion. The girl blushed and screamed in admiration, breathing heavily. Sheng Yan's emotional waves are ambiguous and synchronized. Li Xiu's palms are filled with youthful electricity, and the bracelet will never die. Jiang Chen's thin shoulders fell softly, and the buzzing sound stopped. His silver eyes flashed with awe and relief, and his thin lips bitterly evoked a real smile. He strode through the sour smoke and walked straight to the center of the iron triangle stage. He stretched out his thin palm, which was stained with blood and trembling but firm. Break it off. String King. Li Xiu, you win. The intelligence is wrong, the weakness turns into a magical skill. I can win and turn the enemy into a friend. The breaths of the audience turned to boiling, and the eyes of passers-by in the first row flashed. Jiang Chen shakes his head. Silver Wing Iron Triangle Alliance. A school-level legend. The ghostly figure of the blue-haired follower moved with his knees weak and his nose bleeding. He muttered the smell of smoke. Boss, the dream is broken and the information is completely useless. Are we going to follow? Li Xiu's eyes were blazing and he held his thin palm. The red ring, the green ring and the blue ring faintly resonated, and he roared and shook. Jiang Chen, Best Wolf Howl will not lose, and they will join forces for a bloodbath in the next game. Qin Feng smiled and slapped Jiang Chen's thin shoulder. Short, welcome to the expansion of the Audio-Technica, Thunder Drum is waiting for you. Sheng Yan nodded with a smile on her red cheeks, and lightly touched the green ring on her wrist. Welcome. The golden light of the championship trophy was lifted up on the tray, and the host's voice trembled and shouted, the Iron Triangle, Li Xiu, Qin Feng, Sheng Yan, the champion. The red, blue and green bracelets of the three people collided, and the stars shone. Li Xiu held up the old guitar and the blood stains on the wooden body shone like a battle flag. The sea of mobile phone lights of thousands of people in the audience rekindled the Milky Way, and the smell of sweat, wood, bloody jasmine was mixed with sweet popcorn. Sheng Yan's parents rushed to the stage, her mother hugged her daughter with tears in her eyes and shouted loudly through the air, "Shine! The Iron Triangle will never be defeated, and my daughter's emotional wave is perfect." Before the live broadcast at Li Xiu's parents' house, his father, who was thick-browed and proud, his mother, wearing an apron, laughed wildly with tears in her eyes, "My son has withstood with tenacity, and the music dream champion has blessed me, and he has grown up." The little yellow man bowed on his knees and licked the screen. The golden retriever was tumbling, and the yellow shadow of the Frisbee symbolized the eternal love of the family. The principal shook hands on stage and his reputation and status increased. The club's funds doubled, the exclusive practice room was unlocked, invitations to the school anniversary tour were flying, and passers-by and freshmen worshipped and flocked, idol of the king of string breakers. Number 1 in the school's history of magic skills without lights, and the trend of iron triangle bracelets exploded. The aftermath soothed like the tide receding on the beach, and the three people at the edge of the stage looked at each other's sweaty figures. Qin Feng put his arms around his shoulders and gasped, then smiled, "Brother Xiu, Sister Yan, the fruit of the championship is sweet, the night training is worth it." Sheng Yan turned pale and blushed, her thin fingers lightly hugged Li Xiu's waist, and the warm current surged up. The green ring pressed against the red ring and she whispered hotly, "Li Xiu, your solo shocked my heart, like a tacit understanding in a private battle without lights. The bracelet shines, and the emotion will never die." Ambiguous feelings surged through the keyboard, and the fire in Li Xiu's eyes turned gentle. "Sheng Yan, the green ring is my motivation, our youth is shining." The audience gradually exhaled and whispered, "The Iron Triangle counterattacks the legend." Jiang Chen shakes hands with the school-level alliance students, Li Xiu's self-esteem collides and turns into a championship fire. The lights behind the award ceremony were soft, and the golden light of the trophy shone on the tired but bright faces of the three people. Qin Feng smiled and opened the bonus red envelope. "Brother Xiu, the club used the funds to buy a new drum, and I upgraded the thunder drum." Sheng Yan's parents handed over homemade pastries that smelled of milk, and her mother hugged her with a tearful smile, "Daughter, my parents are proud, and the Iron Triangle will never leave." Li Xiu's mobile phone buzzed with community groups, and the new students sent messages of admiration. "Idol of the Broken String King, follow the trend of wristbands." Jiang Chen's blue-haired follower Guiying poked his head to wipe away the nosebleeds and wiped away the cigarette smell, muttering in awe, "The boss said to join forces." Silver Wings disbanded and joined. Fame came like a tide, the campus broadcast cycled the Iron Triangle Championship song, and the freshmen passing by the dormitory stared in admiration and whispered, "The school's history god without lights, the championship status is unparalleled, Li Xiu has grown and transformed." Night fell outside the gymnasium, with the cool breeze blowing on their faces and the fragrance of dried wood lingering on their faces. Li Xiu and the three of them walked side by side along the campus tree-lined avenue, their red, blue and green bracelets twinkling under the moonlight. Qin Feng strode boldly and patted his shoulder, "Brothers, the champion is still warm, and we will be bloodbathed in the provincial competition." Sheng Yan leaned against Li Xiu's arm and smelled the fragrant jasmine, and whispered ambiguously, "Well, but the graduation season is approaching, sophomore classes, internship choices, the Iron Triangle, will it break up?" Li Xiu's heart tightened and a red ring flashed. Holding his thin wrist, he resolutely growled, "We won't let go. The bracelet promises to never be extinguished, and the craze of youth continues." The thin figure of Jiang Chen in the distance flashed his silver eyes, clenched his fist and murmured, "King of broken strings, let's join forces." The campus bell sounded melodiously, the shadow of graduation was approaching faintly, and the decision to separate was like a low-frequency buzzing, a new riff waiting to be released. The moonlight falls like silver frost on the campus boulevard, and the rustle of fallen leaves makes a crisp sound when rubbing against the soles of shoes. The cool breeze picks up the aftertaste of woody and jasmine after sweat has dried, and is mixed with the faint sweetness of popcorn from the dormitory lights in the distance. Li Xiu's red ring flickered under the moonlight, and the warmth of Sheng Yan's thin waist still remained in his palm. His throat rolled slightly. When he held her thin wrist back, the current in his fingertips surged like the low-frequency hum of a keyboard. Qin Feng strode forward, the red scarf moonlight lengthening, panting and laughing, shaking the night sky. Xiu brother Yanmei, the championship is still hot, the provincial competition invites the principal to speak personally, the iron triangle bloodbaths the whole audience. Sheng Yan's crimson cheeks drooped, the green ring trembled lightly leaning on Li Xiu's arm, the hot breath hit her ears and the fragrance of jasmine was as strong as an emotional surge. Well. But the sophomore class schedule is down, I am interning in the music studio, Qin Feng's physical education department. Li Yan, you are so stressed about studying in business school. Will the iron triangle just fall apart? Her voice trembled like the lingering sound of a broken string, and her self-esteem was as sharp as a knife. Her mind flashed back to the torment of night training, the despair of blindly pressing the keyboard under the light scent of lavender ointment for swollen wrists. At that time, Jiang Chen's ghost eavesdropped and taunted, weaknesses are exposed, and the lights will kill you. Now the golden light of the champion is dazzling, but it can't stop the shadow of graduation from approaching like a low-frequency wolf howl. Li Xiu's heart sank. The red ring fire dimmed and became depressed. He stopped beside the bench under the shade of the trees. The wooden chair was as cold as the chill of reality. He lowered his head and stared at the old guitar backpack with bloodstains, cracks and mottled moonlight, and his mind was flooded with memories of his first meeting in the club. On the day of registration for freshmen, passers-by whispered and laughed at King of Broken Strings. The guitar is rotten wood, and he is a marginalized person in the club. Qin Feng slapped his shoulder with his strong arm and roared to get him to join the team. Sheng Yan's thin eyes first saw the ambiguous current but hid a misunderstanding. His guitar is weak, dragging down the emotional wave. Now the champion legend is the best in school history, but facing separation. With his throat rolling, he murmured, vibrating the air, "No, the bracelet promises immortality." The trio of freshmen passing by stopped, their eyes widened as the dim light of their cell phones reflected the admiring water, and their whispers filled the night wind. That's the iron triangle. Li Xiu broke the string. Wang Wudong's magical skills, Sheng Yan's ambiguous synchronization, Qin Feng's thunderous drums are soaring. But what about the school anniversary tour? The girl breathed quickly and dropped the popcorn crumbs with a blushing face. Li Xiu's self-esteem is changing, don't stop the youth craze. Qin Feng's strong body stiffened, the sweat in his red turban glistened under the moonlight, and he slapped his knees with his thick palms, making a loud noise and then muttering, "Brother Xiu. I'm being targeted by the devil coach of the physical education department. I soak in ice baths every day during practice training. If the thunder drum can't hold up to the provincial competition, how can it be washed with blood?" His laughter elongated and turned bitter, and his strong arms trembled, recalling the night practice of soaking his hands with blood, the night attack of Jiang Chen's intelligence spy. The dwarf's thunder drum weakly exploded, and the roar of his parents' braised pork and garlic in the spicy heat. "Resist your son, your blood will not break." Sheng Yan held the green ring tightly with her slender fingers, her eyes flashed, and her voice trembled. "My studio instructor Yan, the emotional wave on the keyboard is not in line with the trend, saying that I rely too much on your tacit understanding. Misunderstandings pile up, self-esteem is shattered." The whole audience, no, Lin, the breaths of passers-by were frozen, and the freshman boy's glasses fell off and his eyes widened. Iron Triangle crisis. Falling apart after winning the championship, and the dream of the provincial championship is shattered. The girl screamed and covered her mouth and retreated, her voice breaking. Sheng Yan's ambiguous motivation, Li Xiu's red ring, don't let the graduate shadow win. The crisis was like a black tide, and the fire in Li Xiu's eyes was rekindled but first turned into ashes. He sat down on the bench and the wood pricked his palms. The red rings jingled against his backpack and the old guitar buzzed and the low-frequency wolf howl started. Jiang Chen's thin figure flashed out of the tree shadow in the distance, his silver eyes pierced the night with strange light, his skinny palms were stained with blood, he clenched his fist and murmured, "Broken String King." After the intelligence failed, my silver wing was disbanded, and my follower, the blue-haired ghost, knelt down to beg to join. Your iron triangle is expanding, and I, Best Wolf Howl, am gathering momentum to save the country. Competition. But before he finished speaking, the campus radio suddenly sounded, and the host's voice trembled throughout the night, urgent notice. The provincial competition preliminaries are released, Audio-Technica faces the national dark horse, Phantom Sound, the opponent's lead singer's voice is soul-shattering, and the bass is shaking at low frequency, the intelligence shows the weakness of your graduation class has been exposed, and the dreams of passers-by are shattered. The freshman on the road gasped and the green light flashed sarcastically on the screen, Iron Triangle Champion. The internship in the class fell apart, and the dark horse crushed the school legend. She knelt down and gasped, Brother Xiu, the thunder drum can't stand it, the black horse earthquake is low frequency, I'm mentally broken. Sheng Yan's pale cheeks were filled with tears, the scent of jasmine mixed with salty astringency, her thin wrists were swollen and the afterglow of the ointment failed, the waves of emotion, are broken at the same time, and my misunderstanding and self-esteem are shattered. Li Xiu's throat was boiling wildly, and the red-ringed fire was suppressed and bursting. He stood up suddenly, shouldered the old guitar, and shouldered the wooden body. The bloodstains on the wooden body shone like a war flag under the moon, and he was reborn. His low roar shook the rustling leaves of the tree shade, brothers. If you want to grow, suppress it first, this is the best. Graduation shadow. I have transformed into a string-breaking king, from practicing blood soaks at night to the magic skill without lights is the best. The red, blue and green bracelets of the three people were stacked on top of each other, and the electric current surged like a rift tsunami. Qin Feng's eyes widened and his thick palms trembled, Brother Xiu, awesome. The thunder drum restarts, the provincial competition is bloodbathed. Thin fingers covered with green rings, hot breath hit his nose, Li Xiu, your fire, the wave of emotions will follow. Jiang Chen's tall and thin figure rushed forward, the blood marks on his thin wrists tied with the new blue ring stung, his silver eyes flashed with awe, and his thin palms were folded into each other, iron four corners. Join forces with Best Wolf Howl, I will dig out the dark horse's weakness in intelligence. The freshman's breath stopped and their eyes widened, and the mobile phone flashed wildly and screamed, Leader Li Xiu has transformed. The bracelet has expanded to blue, the graduation crisis has been reversed, and the provincial champion is a legendary student. The girl worshipped the water light and breathed heavily, ambiguous fire explodes, self-esteem collides with magical skills, and youth never fades away. The night wind turned into a heat wave, and the four corners of the iron rushed to the dormitory side by side. The mobile phones of the club group buzzed wildly. There was an avalanche of messages from the freshmen, the king of broken strings vows to live forever, expand Jiang Chen's genius, and the dark horse intelligence failed. The door of the dormitory opened, and under the dim light bulb, the old guitar was placed on the bedside. The head scrolled, my son is very resilient. Graduation is in the same class. Music dream blessing, parents will always be there. The mother's figure in the apron shone with tears and touched her arms and whispered, the silly child grows up, the ambiguity flourishes with the green ring power, the champion's remaining warmth is not gone. The little golden fur ran wildly and knelt down and licked the screen with hot tongue, the yellow shadow of the Frisbee flipped and the golden fur shone like the stars on the bracelet, symbolizing the blood of the family dispelling the haze. Qin Feng smiled and opened the red envelope for new drum sticks, Brother Xiu, the club used funds to buy an exclusive practice room, and the thunder drums have been upgraded to earthquake low frequency. Sheng Yan's parents followed up on the video, and her mother hugged the shadow with tears in her eyes, my daughter's emotions are shining, and she is undefeated. The ghost of Jiang Chen's blue-haired follower looked over, wiped away the nosebleeds, and the smell of cigarette smoke faded away, and his knees were weak and he murmured in awe, boss, join forces, let's follow. The practice room is unlocked, the soundproof walls are filled with sweaty woody scent, bloody jasmine mixed with lavender ointment, and iron four corners night training is restarted. Li Xiu's old guitar pick whirled around and riffed with a bone-chilling low-frequency wolf howl. The floor beneath the blood-stained and cracked wooden body trembled and rustled. Qin Feng's strong arms rotated the thunder drum and the bass drum roared as steadily as a chariot. The sweat flew away in a heat wave and the red turban was soaked and roared, "Brother Xiu, thank you. The dark horse's weakness is exposed." Sheng Yan's thin fingers covered the keyboard, and the waves of emotion injected into the turbulent buzzing resonance and heartbeat tsunami. The green ring trembled lightly, leaning against Li Xiu's shoulder and breathing warmly into his ears. Synchronization, the ambiguous current is burning. Jiang Chen slimmed the low-frequency earthquake of the finger-breaking bass guitar gathered momentum, and the silver eyes turned into a wild smile with thin lips. King of broken strings, demo twisted riff, amazing skills. The passing freshmen clung to the wall and eavesdropped, their breaths froze, their eyes widened and trembling, the voice broke, the tacit understanding of the four corners of the iron is explosive. Graduation crisis becomes a god, and the dark horse of the provincial competition is buried. The girl blushed and screamed in admiration. Li Xiu grows into a leader, Sheng Yan hugs her waist and has an ambiguous youth craze, and her bracelets flash red and green forever. On the day of the provincial competition preliminaries, the stadium was spotlighted in a furnace with white flames. Tens of thousands of people breathed in sweat, sour popcorn, and the sweet and bloody woody fragrance hit their nostrils. The Dark Horse Phantom sound stage burst out, the lead singer's soul-shattering treble glass cracked, the bass earthquake and low-frequency floor trembled wildly, and the intelligence mocked, the iron four corners are falling apart in different classes. Weaknesses exposed again. The whole audience burst into whispers, and the glasses of the first row of freshmen fell off, Dark Horse crushing. Li Xiu's broken string king can't stand it. Qin Feng's strong body leaned back and his heart beat wildly, Sheng Yan's thin wrists were swollen and the lavender ointment failed, and Jiang Chen's thin shoulders were stiff and his silver eyes were suppressed. But the lights suddenly go out, the darkness engulfs us, and the crisis comes again. The Dark Horse laughed ghostly, playing blindly without lights. The intelligence is upgraded, I will bury you. Li Xiu's eyes burst with fire, the broken strings of the old guitar and the new riff pierced the bone marrow, the four rings of the palms collided with each other and the lingering sound of heartbeats, the tacit understanding of the bloodline was reversed. Qin Feng's thunder drum blindly hits the chariot to stabilize, Sheng Yan's emotional wave blindly hits the tsunami, Jiang Chen's bass low-frequency earthquake linkage distorts the Dark Horse's soul and shatters it. The green light on the scoreboard flashed wildly, and the iron four corners counterattacked to win the provincial qualifying championship. The audience held their breath for 3 seconds and the tsunami shouts reached the top of the hall, Li Xiu Shen. Wuding joins forces with the legend, and the shadow of graduation is shattered. The freshmen stared in admiration and waved their cell phones in the sea of lights, the broken string king transforms into a leader, and the bracelet expands blue and youth is immortal. The girls screamed with a crimson breath and a heavy breath, ambiguousness explodes simultaneously, and self-esteem and misunderstanding become champions. Fire. Jiang Chen grasped the blood stain with his thin hand and said firmly, let's join hands and wait for the whole world. Sheng Yan hugged Li Xiu and the electric current surged, whispering in her ears, Xiu. I will always have a tacit understanding of love. Li Xiu's throat rolled with tender eyes, Sheng Yan, red ring power, the youthful craze continues. After the waves receded, the campus radio cycled the Iron 4 championship song, and the dormitory night chat was about moonlight and starry stars. Qin Feng laughed loudly, brothers, we are getting ready for the provincial competition. The third branch? I am thunderous. The braised pork at the door of my parents' house is hot, and Xiao Huang's golden hair is tumbling on his knees forever. The graduation bell is ringing faintly, but it cannot stop the low-frequency buzzing of the new riff, which is gaining momentum across the country. But in the distance, the ghost of the lead singer of National Dark Horse flashed, and a new conspiracy was whispered: the iron four-cornered bracelet is weak, and the end will be a bloodbath. Li Xiu's red ring flashed, the fire in his eyes was blazing, the youthful craze will never die. The lights suddenly came back together and exploded as bright as a furnace in daylight. The circuit failure was repaired and the buzz was restarted. The final riff of the Audio-Technica reached its climax and pierced the sky. The smell of woody sweat, blood, and jasmine filled the audience's nostrils with heavy breathing and paralysis. The final number flashed on the giant scoreboard screen, and tens of thousands of people in the audience held their breaths. The tsunami shouts were frozen into pinprick silence, and the ownership of the championship became a mystery. Jiang Chen's silver eyes stared at the screen, his thin lips trembled, the iron triangle bracelet jingled, and the youth craze was about to explode.